serious things in a funny way and funny things in a serious way.
All right, mabibi na mabwana, karibuni tena to another episode of the One Mic Show. Na ni furaha kujiunga nanyi wapenzi wasikilizaji, tukiwa tumekuandalia taarifa za kusisimua, muziki ukata viungo na kindumbwe cha siasa au politics ukipenda. We're streaming live on Facebook from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. And we shall shortly be going live on YouTube, so please call in all your YouTube friends. And please remember to subscribe to both our YouTube and Facebook pages at The One Mic Show. We are also on Instagram and TikTok at The One Mic Show, so please remember to subscribe, like, and share. And of course, the number to call tonight is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Again, the number to call, 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. We want you to call in early today. We have a very big guest in the studio tonight. For those who had joined us from earlier on, they know we are hosting Minnesota State Representative HULDAH MOMANYI HILTSLEY. She's finally in the building. We interviewed her last year while she was running, and now we are interviewing her as a U.S. government official, meaning she has clearance, meaning she's classified, meaning that if something happens here, they will pick her up and leave us in the building. So this is the person that we're going to be talking to tonight, so I want you to stay tuned. Again, I'm going to remind you the number is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Now, later in the show, she will be talking to us about Kenyans running for office in the U.S. Kenyans running for office. What do you need to know? Is this something that's impossible? Because now we have a winner. You know, she'll talk about her experiences, and she'll talk about what Kenyans need to understand in order to win some of these races. Nigerians have been doing it. Ethiopians have been doing it. Liberians have been doing it. Somalis have been doing it. So now, why are Kenyans not represented in these spaces? That we only have one representative as we speak. And I want you to feel free to start dropping some comments in the comment section. I can see a number of people already tuned in. Favorite uncle Daniel Monari watching. We're going to verify if he's actually a favorite or if it's a title that he gave himself. That's something that we're going to find out later on in the show. But Uncle Daniel Monari, karibu sana. I can also see Washeke Ndirango all the way from Texas originally, but she's seeming to be in a lot of different cities across the world. So Washeke, please tell us what city you're in tonight. So thank you so much. And I can see Slay is already tuned in also from Texas. Texas always representing in the building. Texas is one of those places where I want to see a Kenyan run, because there are so many Kenyans there. Everywhere you go in Texas, there are Kenyans. In Dallas, there are Kenyans. In Frisco, there are Kenyans. In Richardson, there are Kenyans. All these small cities in Texas. Even I once went to a city called Lubbock, Texas. And guess what? I found Kenyans there. So we'll be talking about what Kenyans need to do in order to run for office in the U.S. And of course, bila kusahau, tumekuwa tukipokea mziki wetu toka DJ wetu machachari mleta habari DJ OmoshFaya, na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Micah ojezi yake nambari 7 mgongoni akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawy. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Okay, a lot of politics tonight. A lot of politics will be talked tonight. Now, this hour, of course, we'll be talking to the Democratic representative from Minnesota, District 38A, HULDAH MOMANYI HILTSLEY. She'll tell us how she shook up the elections and made history as the first Kenyan-born person to serve in a U.S. state legislature. So please drop a comment below and tell us where you are tuned in from. We want to know where you're listening from, and tag your friends at highlight at everyone, or whatever tags that they're using nowadays to let people know that HULDAH MOMANYI is in the building. And of course, I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawy. It is Friday, the 28th of March, the second last day of Ramadan, Idi ndio hiyo inakaribia. And we are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to follow the One Mic Show on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and any other place where you find the One Mic Show. We're the only real One Mic Show. Any place you find the One Mic Show, please follow us. If you find us on the streets, please stop us and follow us and ask us why we're not in studio presenting a show. And on panel with me tonight, Mr. One Mic is absent without apology, but that we're going to deal with later on behind the building, behind the tent. I mean, sports anchor will be joining us, Micah. Our resident DJ OmoshFaya, of course, amekuwa kituroga pale kwa Dex kama kawaida. And then, not forgetting, super producer Mubelwa Bandio is the super substitute for OmoMic, because OmoMic is not in the building, so he's gonna be with us on the panel. And I can see quite a number of people are still joining us. I can see Stephen JJ all the way from Texas. Man, Texas always showing love. Anasema tuko ndani ya building. And then I have Jenny George watching from Wisconsin. I think this is our first viewer from Wisconsin. A lot happening in Wisconsin. There's actually, Makofi tafadhali, Makofi. This is our first listener, viewer, first audience member from Wisconsin. This is the HULDAH effect. Let's call this the HULDAH effect. Bringing people from Wisconsin.
Are you saying we've never had a person from Wisconsin?
Well, like if anyone can verify.
Okay.
So Jenny George, we welcome you so much. Tell us what's happening in Wisconsin. I know in Wisconsin there's gonna be a race. I think it's a Supreme Court race. And this is the first test to see if Trump is trumping or if Democrats can put up a fight. Because my, there people are suffering. These executive orders, they're coming in so fast, like a hybrid of Usain Bolt and Ferdinand Omanyala. They're coming in so fast that people cannot keep up with what's going on. So this is going to be a test to see if Trump's popularity is still up there or if the Dems can actually put up a fight. And this is one of the things that we're going to be talking about. So maybe, Jenny, tell us a bit about what's going on with this race locally, because I think a lot of people outside Wisconsin, they don't really quite know about it. But I saw this one person by the name Steve Bannon talking about it and mobilizing their people. These people are not sleeping. So I'm hoping that something will happen. And then Jenny George amesema staki kuongea. I don't know exactly what that means, but just let us know.
Kusikiliza tu ni enough.
Kusikiliza ni sawa. But at least tueleze hali ya hewa, hali ya anga huko. Mshafika spring? Are you still in winter? Because those states in the north, they have an extended winter. It's very interesting. There was a time I traveled to Minnesota, and of course, Huldah will be talking about Minnesota later on.
Minnesota is in the north?
Yes, of course, it's in the north. Yeah, check your cardinal points.
I didn't know Minnesota. I didn't know Minnesota was in the north.
You are confusing them in Kiswahili, now you're also confusing them in English.
I didn't know Minnesota is in the north.
I think your geography teacher will be very ashamed to hear this.
Me, I only know of Alaska.
But those states, there was a time I got there in October, and October, it was like still full-blown winter. Like it was below freezing. And I'm like, no, it was below freezing.
For you.
It was below freezing. And below freezing, below freezing in Maryland is winter. But anyway,
for you,
we are going to be talking about that. And then Apa Jenny George, and I'm so proud of Honorable HULDAH Momanyi. Thank you so much, Jenny George, for tuning in.
Oh, and she's Muhesh.
Yes, and the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We want you to
start
that again. 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We want to get callers early tonight. We know a lot of people, when the show is coming towards the end, the last 10 minutes, there's like 5 callers on queue. When you had a whole 3 hours to be able to do this. So I think without much further ado, we're going to get started because there's so much that we have to unpack. There's so much that we have to cover today. And there's so much that we have to talk about. Now, of course, tonight, it's not her first time. It's the return. But now it's Representative HULDAH Momanyi Hiltsley from the Minnesota House of Representatives. And the last time she joined us, she was running for office. Today, she returns as the first Kenyan-born representative in the Minnesota State House and any U.S. State House legislature. So, of course, tonight we are honored to be joined once again by HULDAH Momanyi Hiltsley, a daughter of Kenya, and now a voice of legislation and leadership in the United States. Karibu sana.
We don't have those people.
You took us back to Kisiland, eh?
Okay. Sorry.
And we're going to be talking about Kisiland, but how are you feeling today?
Kishibeba Uji.
Yeah.
She didn't bring it.
Sasa we won't ask for
Oh,
G.
sorry.
Tuliza Mbego. Omosh, it seems like today you have...
Omosh is on fire today.
You know the problem with Omosh, when he's supposed to be talking, he'll go silent for like 45 minutes. And then when it's not his turn...
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. I was just asking a question. Did she bring Uji?
And then
It's a very simple question.
when it's not his turn,
And she knows why I was asking. But as you are.
He's right. I should
Okay.
have brought Uji and Matoke because I come from the county of Plenty.
Okay.
So that is, I've fallen short.
Okay.
So apologies, DJ Omosh.
Okay.
Okay.
Ni sawa.
Bakaribu sana. How are you feeling today?
Asante.
Yeah.
I am I'm in awe. You know, sometimes some of us sit here and we watch you guys here do your thing day in and day out, producing really amazing content. And now I'm here. And like you said earlier, right? I was here before the elections and now sitting here as a House of Representatives and really talking about things that matter not only to our community. I'm honored. I'm excited. You know, I feel like I'm sitting amongst my brothers, you know, my older brothers. And so let's get the show rolling. And everybody, please tune in. If you are on social medias, please follow OneMic Show. Let's get this show rolling.
Okay. Now, before we get it rolling,
Yes.
people are seeing you in Washington, D.C. You're a representative in Minnesota.
Yes.
What exactly are you doing in D.C.?
Thank
How
you,
did
Brother
end up
Ali.
here? Yeah.
I am here because I got invited with Kenat Sako. I am a part of a proud member of Kenat Sako. And so I am here to inspire our women to continue to grow, not only economically, but socially.
Okay.
And then also to engage our people here, Kenyans in diaspora, in terms of how do we, and we'll talk about this some more, how do we participate civically, and how do we do it in a manner that actually brings us value. So that's why I'm here. I'm excited. It's going to be a fun weekend. We have a whole entire business day tomorrow. And then in the evening, you know, we're going to turn up. We're going to have some fun. And we're going to finish with being inspired.
Okay, all right. We're going to talk about that turning up. But let me come to DJ OmoshFaya. It's his official turn to speak.
Oh, yes.
But anyway, DJ OmoshFaya, karibu sana. You know, like ulikuwa umeroga watu na mziki pale mwanzo. Thank you so much for that. But what do you expect tonight from Miss Momanyi?
Pengine attender, you know, and
a brown envelope.
Yes.
Okay.
Unajua, when you know mtu ambaye they are in power.
When you know people who know people.
Yes, mtu ameka mali kuna stature.
Okay.
Sasa Momo forget that we're in America.
It doesn't matter. See, that's our expectation.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
So it's these are your expectations.
Are our expectations.
He said our.
Our ni sisi kama wa Kenya. Mimi kama representative wa Kenya. Ingawa sisi ni watu wa at this point we are one. In fact, you're no longer Kisi, wewe ni wetu. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But jokes aside, just more on what it actually means now. What are you able to do in terms of as a sitting representative in Minnesota, and with the times that we have now with the immigration footprint? How do you, or how can you, what should we, Yani, just help us.
DJ tumefika, and we are there. Obviously, we are in a situation where, you know, we are having executive orders from the federal government, and that's impacting us, especially as of us who are in the diaspora. And we've seen what those executive orders have done, right? We are seeing an increase in raids. There's stories every single day. Even within my district of Senate District 38A, the city of Brooklyn Park, we have had a couple of deportation and execution by ICE. And so from my end, as a legislator, I want to be very clear in terms of creating understanding and boundaries in terms of what I'm able to do at the state level, because immigration is a federal issue, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes people look at me and they're like, nimefika, but there are perimeters within my role. And so, but from my end, what we've been trying to do is educate our community, the do's and don'ts. If you get stopped, what do you do? If ICE shows up at your door, what do you do? And I was able to partner with key stakeholders in our community, working at AG of the Minnesota state. And then that's the Attorney General, Keith Allison, the Hennepin County Attorney General as well. And then a couple of other lawyers, immigration lawyers. We had a town hall to talk about what does that look like? What do you need to do? And then we provided services. And then also if anything else, if all else fails, people know to reach out to my office because we have compiled resources for our people, from lawyers to actual items that you can take with you to be prepared. Because a lot of times what we have discovered, if you don't know the law and how the law can protect you, you put yourself in situations where it'll be impossible to even help yourself. Even if somebody finally came in to help you, it's difficult. So it's a complex place we're in, and I want to acknowledge that. And so the best thing that we can do right now, Minnesota has been at the forefront of making sure that we are protecting everybody in that state. And that is making sure that, people know the law and how that applies for them. Because once you know, you have a better chance of fighting whatever it is that is coming down, especially when it comes to immigration.
Okay, asante sana Huldah, and we are going to be talking about immigration because that's a big issue and a lot has been happening. Just want to remind the listeners that you're tuned in to the One Mic Show, and the number to call in is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Of course, in studio we have Minnesota State Representative HULDAH MOMANYI HILTSLEY. She's in DC. She has an event that she's attending tomorrow, and the first place that she chose to be when she got to DC was the One Bike Show. So we're very honored for that. So if you have any question for her, you want to talk to her, I mean, Omosh was asking if she's going to be supplying brown envelopes or tenders and that kind of thing. We are going to find out if that's possible here in the U.S. or how it works in the U.S. because the U.S. also has their own version of corruption in politics. So we're going to be talking
a Minnesota address.
Yes, we're going to be talking to Huldah about that later on. But in the meantime, let me also welcome Mubelwa Bandio, who's also in studio with us. And maybe Bandio, maybe just tell us one or two things about what you expect tonight from Huldah before we proceed. Bandio, karibu sana.
So I'm only expecting what we always do here, the three things. We educate, entertain, and engage. So Omosh did the entertainment, and now I think it's the time that I guess more than any time we need a lot of education. Now we have somebody from inside. I want to say the insider. But
we have an insider.
Knows, ins and outs and what to do, and this is why we're here. And the last thing, I'm asking everybody to call because that's our third portion of it, to engage. So welcome everybody, but tunasema kuelimisha, kuburudisha na kushirikisha. So
burudisha na shirikisha. Yes. Number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. A number of comments were coming in as we were speaking. I can see Mwakisha Mgendi Brai anasema mambo ni mengi sana kusini na kaskazini. And then Washeke Ndirang wanasema leo niko Juba, South Sudan. I'm here to agitate for Honorable Machar. Wow. Washeke was in Kiev. She's in all the war zones, the places where
this Washeke character,
yes,
she needs to give us her miles.
She does. She does.
Kuna vile si waga tunaendaga Kenya,
she
and sometimes vitu waga mbaya.
She's been in cities that we can't even pronounce.
But just imagine how many miles she's racked.
Well, we'll talk about that later. We'll see if
Companion fare.
If she has taken a selfie with Riek Machar or Salva Kiir, she'll tell us more about that.
Baba went there and he couldn't see the guy, so how is she gonna take a selfie?
Wow. Okay. Sawa. That's another conversation we're gonna be having today.
Sorry.
Brown Sugar anasema hello. Karibu sana Brown Sugar. We've missed you. It's been a while since we saw you. And then Tabitha is also in the building. Alan Otis is also in the building. Also the YouTube family, I can see why Remo is already in the building. Anasema, hello friends, greetings from Kosti ya Magharibi. Another one.
I don't know, but Swahili is not my tongue.
Okay. Sawa. And then and then Marimo is telling Huldah congratulations. So going back to you, Huldah, that election night, when you were announced as the winner, walk us through that, because I know there was a lot of very stressful nights, weeks, even months before that night. So walk us through after you voted, the counting process, and then the moment.
Yeah. So like you said, and you have been following my story and the work that has gone into it. I remember 2 nights before election night, I was sitting on the curb at 3 a.m. at an apartment complex waiting for more literature from one of my teammates to bring over. And I was exhausted. And one of my team members took a picture of me. And I look back at that picture and I just remember the hard work that went into it. And so, we went all the way until 8 p.m. that night. That's when the polls were closing. I remember dropping somebody off at 7:59 to vote. And so going into, that night, I was extremely exhausted, but optimistic and hopeful. But then again, I was also reliving the trauma of 2022. Remember, I ran for Senate in 2022 and I lost.
And you lost, yes.
So in my head, I'm like, hey, yes, the momentum is on our side, but the 2022 trauma still was in my mind. This time was different. The energy was different. So I'm walking up to the place where we had our watch party, and my team was outside lined up, just like last time, So that gave me that lived anxiety all over again. But this time around, it was different how they approached me, And I remember my campaign manager giving me a big old hug, lifting me up and saying, "We did it. All precincts have been counted. You did it." And I just couldn't believe it. I remember my mother and my father, I had driven with them. My mom, this is now like a sea woman, right?
Yeah.
She ran around the parking lot, praising and thanking God, singing in Kisi.
Oh, wow.
And people thought she had lost her mind.
Oh, wow. In celebration.
In celebration with tears. And my dad was just, he fell on his knees, and I don't know what he was doing. But ultimately, it was just a testament of what we've gone through the last couple of years. Not only myself, I'm talking about the people who supported my campaign. Because a lot of times, my brother, when a candidate is running, you see that candidate as the figure of their campaign. But what a lot of people don't realize is the support that they have behind.
There's a whole machinery.
It's a whole machinery behind that candidate. And so it was a testament of their work. It was a testament of their sacrifices, because most of these people, I couldn't afford to pay them what they were worth. So it was also a win for them, and of course the community, and the realization that I have won and I'm the first. And that whole thing of being the first, I didn't realize about. I didn't know about it until Tom Guitar from Mushale.
Yes.
He's the one who called me several times. I missed his call, and I was like, he never calls me like that. So I answered the call, and he goes, "We have been doing our research. You are the first." And in my head, I'm like, what do you mean I'm the first? And when he broke it down, you are the firstborn, I was also in shock, because we as Kenyans, we've lived in this country for how long?
For a very long time.
For a very
time.
long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
For a very long time. I've been in this country for a couple of decades now. And to hear that I am the first in this space was definitely something that, to this day, I'm still humbled by it. So it was just a testament of the hard work that we put in. And also just a reminder that we have a long way to go.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We have a long way to go. And of course, that's HULDAH Momanyi Hiltsley. Number to call if you want to speak to her. She's now Representative HULDAH Momanyi Hiltsley. I even have to remember to call her that. In Kenya, we use the term mheshimiwa, but that term mheshimiwa is sometimes very corrupted and used even for people.
Corrupted.
Yeah, it's extremely corrupted.
Everybody understand. Everybody in Kenya is mheshimiwa.
Yeah,
they are all mohesh. As long as if you ran or if you have money, you are mohesh.
Or as long as someone is trying to ask for money from you
you are
call
mohesh.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We want you to engage. We want you to talk to HULDAH. We want you to ask her any questions. This might be your only opportunity to speak to a U.S. government official. Like I said earlier, in this situation that we're in, if there's an emergency here, she'll be picked up and the rest of us will be left to fend our way, because she's now... could we call you a U.S. asset, or that's going to be a bit extreme, or that's going to sound...
We let people determine.
Okay. All right. Yes. And here Mwakisha is saying true, whole machinery of people behind success. So that's very good to know. Now, another thing, HULDAH, is how was the transition from the campaign trail to now going through that orientation towards going into office?
So nobody tells you that there's a transition. A very it's a switch. You have to make a switch, right?
Yeah.
So you are over here in your mind as a candidate running on a platform, ideas and dreams that you have for your community. But then, Maze, when you are now elected, these people here don't play. On the 7th of November, we were at the Capitol doing orientation. When does orientation happen in Kenyan politics once you're elected? Want to take how long?
Because between the elections and in the US, the elections, there's a big gap between the election night and when people are sworn in. Because I know the presidency goes all the way to around January 20th, and these other offices, it's January, early January, the first week of January.
But keep in mind, now that I'm on the other side, keep in mind, there's a difference between, once you win, you become representative elect, right?
Yes.
Between that period, the reason why, at least from my experience, is
or
because
in Swahili we call them mteule. Rais mteule.
Raisi mteule.
Yeah, so that's why mimi mteule, there's something I'm waiting for. We don't know what it is, but it's coming. But
it's
anyway,
coming.
Yes.
So during that time, there's a lot of administration stuff that needs to happen. Obviously, the team on the ground has to make sure that everything is laid out, ready for you to come and assume office. So by the time you get sworn in, everything is ready. Your office is ready. Your team of, whether that is communications, everything, your desk, all of that stuff is in order. So, and then also as a candidate now, representative-elect or, official-elect, there's a lot of orientation that you have to go through, right? So November 7th, we had our first day at the Capitol. That was the initial welcome to the House. This is what this is, because sometimes some of us have never stepped a foot in that place, right?
Yes.
And so from there was additional orientation where we went on a retreat. And so by the time we got sworn in, I believe for us it was January 12th, and obviously you're familiar with what went on in Minnesota, where the Democrats, refused to give the Republicans a quorum because of everything that happened. So we set out for 3 weeks. And so for us, that was an additional time to really get acquainted with everything that we needed to get ready. And so by the time we get sworn in, we are ready to literally jump in and start drafting bills and start, making legislative decisions on behalf of the people who elected us.
Okay, all right. Mwakisha Mgendi here has been, giving in some comments. Anasema mambo ni mengi sana as a legislator, educate people. Mhesh ni jina sio nzuri, wewe ni mfanyikazi wa watu.
I think wewe unazungumzia mheshimiwa.
Oh, okay. And then hapa Mwakisha anasema tena orientation Kenya iko after kuapishwa, bado uko mteule. And then I have Amin Ali. Amin karibu sana anasema what executive order meaning to laws of presidents of United States of America. So hapo Amin Ali, tell us, rephrase that. I think maybe you're asking what do executive orders mean to laws of I don't know exactly what that means.
Huyo jamaa ametumia better English ama junior.
Yeah, hiyo hapo, tell us, rephrase that and we're gonna
ama andike na Kiswahili.
We are going to answer your question. So, just coming back here in studio, DJ OmoshFaya, from the moment that we interviewed Huldah,
yes,
and then she won, and between us interviewing her, we saw that Kenyan media also picked up on her.
Correct.
Yeah, and they started contacting her to get interviews. On Kenyan media. What do you think we need to do extra or better as a show in order to highlight Kenyans out there who might be interested or maybe might be looking for direction towards running for office in the US? DJ Omosh.
We have a very unique platform, and I think as guys, we may not necessarily realize how unique it is. It's the folks who are from the outside who like Huldah coming in. She's like, you heard her comments, right? And what she sees versus what we see is the difference. And so from that perspective, if we take our hats off and put on the hats of those who are on the outside looking in, then we would probably even, like the way companies have a CSR.
Yes.
We would have like something like that for the community, because this is community outreach, community service for our community, our people and our diasporans, because as we always say, elections are normally local, right? And so if we are supposed to have that footprint or have that be able to put that stamp on it, then we have to push this locality, whether it's local Kenyans, Africans, or blacks. And at some point, based upon how things are happening right now and what we see, we really, really, really have to be very, what's the right word, pinpointed. We have to be very, there's a better word, but we have to basically give folks the ability to come in, use our platform and our audience to show everybody else out there that there's actually Africans out here who are running, whether it's a Tanzanian, whether it's a Kenyan, whether it's a Ghanaian, whether it's a Nigerian, it doesn't matter. Because something that I realized is that our West African brothers and sisters are so far ahead of us when it comes to politics or politicking.
Harvesting opportunities. Yeah.
And having folks sitting in legislative seats or having that ability, they're the ones who shape policies. Those policies are the ones that shape how money is being divvied into the community, how businesses are being impacted, how the Chamber of Commerce is interacting with folks, literally to the point where you can, depending on what county you're in, you can actually get money to help you start a pig farm back home.
Okay.
But it's based upon the policies, settings, and the legislature and the people who are there, and understanding how all of this impacts the folks who are here, and not so much even the folks who are here. Whoever is, we remember we had guys here from the Chamber of Commerce before, right? And so those sorts of things start with people going in and getting into elective office, starting, with your local council, going on the board of education, your PTAs, being a coach for the local girls team, and you work your way up, and that's how people get to know you, and they realize, oh, there's nothing wrong with this person who comes from place X.
Okay.
So it's okay for this particular person as a member of the society of this county who's a voting blah blah blah, and for it, just because their name doesn't sound like mine doesn't mean that they cannot or they don't have the same issues and problems that we have, because their kids play with my kids.
Yes. So you don't just show up.
Yes.
You don't just show up last minute and say, hey,
no,
I want to run.
You have to start ground game in Anza
Inaanza
Mapema.
mapema.
They start from, a lot of them start from Little League coaching. And by the time that you're running for office, you're someone who has been doing this thing. People have seen you for the last 15 years.
Kwanza parents have seen you.
They've seen you. Umekuwa kwa PTA, umepigana na watu. You are the one who was pulled.
That is true.
You're the one who goes on bus trips when parents don't want to be chaperones, for the baseball thing, and you're sitting with the kids, riding all the way to Miami, and for 10 hours or 15 hours, and people see you. And so a lot of times when now they're like, we need somebody to represent us or somebody to go in and talk about the issues we're having in this school district, yada, yada, yada. Nani is here.
Now, you know, an interesting thing you made has reminded me one thing that I was told about sometimes even doing things locally. Like when the local sessions are going on, your local elected representatives, there's certain things that happen that that people rarely pay attention to. So when the local sessions, like your local city council, not many people, they usually have these sessions, not many people attend them unless there's something big, unless there's something major on the news. So what happens is that if you attend those sessions, so the people who normally attend are people in media, because they're trying to report what happened in the council. And because normal people don't appear so much, so if they see you there once or twice, people in media will try to talk to you.
Correct.
They will get your contact, and whatever views you have is what will appear in the local media. So once your name appears in the local media, guess now who's paying attention to you? It's those representatives. So that's a small hack that a lot of people don't know. During regular mundane days, wachana na zile siku when people are angry, something has happened and 1,500 people have shown up. Just on normal days, like go talk to media, because media, they're looking for stories beyond what was said there, what happened there. They want to get views of people who are seated there about some of those bylaws that are being passed and everything. So that's a hack that I never quite understood. but it's a very interesting thing I found out. Again, you tuned into the One Mic Show. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. We're expecting to hear from you. We don't know who will be the first caller, but this is your opportunity to talk to Huldah. We're encouraging you to call early because at some point we're going to shut off the phone lines. A number of comments here were coming in while we were having this conversation. I see Mwakisha. Mwakisha is very, very active. But I think Amin has come back and said and is asking, je, kuna sababu ya kupinga order za Rais Trump kwa jimbo la Minnesota? Anasema jimbo lina haki kukataa order za Rais Trump kutokana na power, ama hiyo ni swali anauliza, je, jimbo lina haki kukataa order za Rais Trump kutokana na power yake kuwa rais wa America. So basically Amin is asking, like does a state like Minnesota have authority to reject an executive order from President Trump, him being the president of the United States?
That's a good and valid question to ask. So yes and no, in the sense that, some of these executive orders have protocol that they need to be followed. Just because an executive orders have been given, there's still a path to executing that executive order.
Okay.
So if it's rooted in law, for example, the immigration executive orders, right? I'm not going to sit here and speak on behalf of the general attorney, the Attorney General for the state of Minnesota. That's who is literally fighting the Trump executive orders. And he's making sure that he is doing everything he can to protect the residents of Minnesota.
Yeah.
But what I can say is that as legislators, we are creating policies and laws within the state that do protect people in their homes.
And is that Attorney General still, is it Keith
Allison?
Allison, it's still him.
Yes,
Okay.
it's still him. And
wow.
you know him well enough to
Yes.
know how he operates. And he's about the people and making sure that people do understand what their rights are under the Constitution. Just
Yes.
because there's an executive order, we also have a Constitution that all of us swore to protect. In regards to this idea of controlling Trump, I take it back to the Congress, right? If you understand the structure of the U.S. government, there are three branches for a reason: the checks and balances. Unfortunately, we're not seeing that happening in Congress at the moment, and for me, it's quite frustrating because that is literally the cornerstone of our democracy. The checks and balances that are in place, so that no one particular. The reason why. The folks who migrated here to start a new union, to start a new republic, to start a new, United States, is because they didn't want to have a king, right? And so that's why it was our forefathers of this country created this branches to check each other, and we're seeing that Congress, again, like I said, is not checking the president, especially when we all know he's going against the Constitution of the United States and its people, and for us, especially the Democratic Party. Let me talk about the Democratic Party. We have a long way to go. We are seeing what the Republicans are doing. They have an agenda. And Brother Ali, we talked about this earlier, right? And so, it was disappointing, for example, seeing when the president was giving his address and there was one Democrat who stood up and spoke, right? And then he was escorted out. That was our time to also, all of us, to stand up, not sit there and act like, To
represent our protest.
Exactly. And really make a statement that we are here to stand up on our principles, on our values, and hold him accountable. Because right now, he does control Congress, unfortunately. And so we are seeing a lot of that impact on the average American who is literally just trying to survive, not asking for handouts, trying to survive and provide food on their table or put a roof over their families. And so as a state, obviously we depend on federal government aid, and we are expecting to see a lot of that rain down on us in terms of cuts to federal aid. Medicaid is one of those things that we are, really nervous about, and how that's going to impact the population, not only from, families, but to the elderly. And so it's going to be a long year, especially in the state of Minnesota and across the country, let's be honest. and it doesn't matter what background you come from, unless you're ultra rich. All of us are going to be impacted by what's going on.
Okay, and we're going to be talking about later the response from the Democrats, because there's there's kind of a lot left to be desired. Some people are complaining, why does it seem like all these things are happening and there's no fight that's being put up? It's like these things are just moving and moving and moving along. And again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. I want to read some comments here and then come to Bandio on that same question on like how can we position ourselves better to help, especially Kenyans, be able to run for some of these seats, so that we can have a voice on the table. Now, one of the questions that came here before I go to Bandio, really back to you quick, Huldah, is coming from Alan Otis. Alan is asking Representative Momanyi, what is your take on Democrats' frustrations with their leadership in Congress for the vote to evade a government shutdown?
To be honest, there's a lot of factors that goes into some of these things that we are discussing. And, when a government shuts down, that's a whole population of individuals. Each one of us feels it, and so, for example, I can only speak for the state of Minnesota, because that's what I've been just busy trying to figure out, because this is a budget year for us.
Yeah.
And so we have a mandate to the people of Minnesota to pass a balanced budget. But because of what's going on from the federal level and then also in the state of Minnesota, for example, in the House specifically, we are tied. Right, 67 Democrats, 67 Republicans,
Wow.
and
Okay.
that's what the voters voted in November. And so that means we are forced to work together to somehow pass a balanced budget, because we can't do it with just 67. We need 68.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of challenges and factors that has to play into that, and it's going to be a very difficult task to do, because of the priorities of each party. Ultimately, I'm optimistic that, Minnesota will rise above and do the right thing. But if we have a special session, I won't be surprised either. And so from the federal level, we are dealing with an administration that, is never consistent. You will wake up tomorrow and it's going to be completely different. So I can't sit here and speak on, what's going to happen in regards to the budget, in regards to a government shutdown. Expect the unexpected at this point from this administration.
Okay, asante sana Huldah, and we're going to be talking about a lot. We're shortly going to get to Huldah's Kenya trip. It was a very interesting trip. So many interesting things happened there. We're going to be talking about that shortly. But Mubelwa, back to you real quick on that issue of maybe what better role can the different kinds of new media, like the OneMic show, for example, in helping or getting name recognition or giving confidence to Kenyans, East Africans, and Tanzanians who are running. Are there Tanzanians who run for local elections in the U.S.? That's another question that I did not ask.
Just Libe. Oh, sorry.
No, local, not elections in Tanzania.
Boss,
We're talking
but
about
that's the
local
only guy
elections.
we know who
that I
does
know.
anything. Ni Libe tu ndio tunajua huyu. Ama unajua mtu mwingine?
Eh?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Sijui. Maybe they're there, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
They're probably
Okay.
man,
Because I know
would-
Kenyans,
I would
Kenyans.
think there's at least one.
I know multiple.
Why hakuna mtu bana?
Yeah, multiple Kenyans have run. Kuna Wakenya wengi wamesimama, lakini I don't know whether nimesikia Mtanzania amesimama kwa any local elections, or maybe Bandio
I
tueleze.
cannot confirm. So,
Yeah.
when they say no research, no right to conclude.
Okay.
With
True.
that one, I'm not sure if there is any,
Mhm.
but probably they are. I mean, the country is too big for that.
And I'm wondering, where is the biggest concentration of Tanzanians in the U.S.?
I will think. I think he used
DMV?
To. No, it's
No.
in Texas.
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 Oh,
I think
See,
so
it's
same
Ohio.
as Kenyans, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Mm.
it's in Texas.
Me, I've always thought it was Ohio because
Ohio. What are Tanzanians doing in Ohio?
No,
They got
no.
Ask
There's
him.
quite a few
Yeah.
Tanzanians in Ohio, yeah.
Kama Mende.
Mhm.
Yes.
I don't know about Mende, but I know Wako.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
to answer your question, I think one thing, this is the platform. And what
Yes.
we need to do is just to invite, which is what we're doing.
Mhm.
They need to participate. People need to come in. We invited her and she did show.
Yes.
So this is not only us what we can do, but are they willing to do that?
Okay. Are they seeing any
So,
value?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kiswahili wanasema unaweza ukampeleka ng'ombe mtoni,
Mhm.
ukashindwa kumlazimisha kunywa maji.
Kabisa, yeah.
Right? So we're here, 3 hours a week with the content. It's a talk show. If you're here, we can talk for 3 hours. You're invited to do that. But one, come, whether you want to run or you have something to teach other people. You know, to me, that's the best thing we can do. And that's why I always enjoy having people here who are willing to share what we know, right? In our way, like Mandela said, when you speak to the people, the language they understand is going to stay in their head. When you speak to their language, and stays in their heart. And that's what she's doing, right? She's one of us. She can speak our language, our struggles, what to do. But are people willing to, one, listen?
Yeah.
Two, call and ask, or chime in, or engage? We have quite few, but I think we need to get more. So to me, I think we are doing what we're supposed to do. The road for perfection is always under construction. The one or two things that we need to do better. Totally, yes. Can we do something better? Yeah, maybe we can reach out to more people. But, again, we always say tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And if you know somebody that you think they have something to our community, let us know, right? It doesn't have to be election, but, just to be.
And the shocking thing is that these local elections, they are very interesting because they sometimes don't get a lot of media coverage, but some of them, you really hear people winning by 2 votes. Like it's something that I used to think that, did you mean 200 or 2,000?
No,
2 votes.
Two. In my city, the mayor of Brooklyn Park, the last race he ran, he won by 2 votes. And this is after we did a recount.
Wow.
At first it was 1 vote, and then once we did a recount, it ended up being 2 votes.
So that can be 2 people who tuned into a show.
What do you mean? I was door knocking the next year, and I was door knocking at a door, and they were like, oh yeah, we didn't even know we were going to vote. These are 3 people in that household who could have voted. And I told him, he lost by 3 votes. And they were shocked.
Yes.
Because nobody thinks that, races are that close. And that's why, like all of us we've been talking about, we need to, like you said, we need to bring the value to the community. And this is exactly what this platform does, because our people don't understand how this process works. I, for the longest time, didn't understand how this process works. We don't vote in November and that's it. This whole process starts, I think you were talking about building your resume. What are you doing? DJ Omosh, you were talking about, these customer things that you're doing, coaching, as you continue to grow, like how are you involving in your community? Because when you are out there, campaigning, you want to talk about your lived experiences. You can't sit here and talk about something that you haven't gone through.
Correct.
You can't sit here and champion for a cause that you yourself don't even have experience in. Where are you going to draw those stories from out of the blue, right?
And I think this is where Omosh pointed out, I mean, he said that he wants you to participate so they can see you. But it's only when you participate, you learn more, gives the fire to fight,
Exactly.
give you the reason to do that, give you some to refer to when you're running or you're helping somebody to run. The issue is we are not engaging, right?
There's no engagement.
So if we are not engaging, if we're not going to those PTA meetings, we're not going to, we miss a lot that people are fighting for. So you need to be engaged, one. So whether you're going to run or you're going to push somebody who's running, just get involved, especially in these local meetings. There's a lot to learn.
Unajua kwanza like board of education meetings.
Yes.
Those are things that people never attend. There was a time in my local, in Montgomery County, there were those redistricting. Redistricting is very controversial and very emotional. So now the problem is people were now showing up towards the end of the process after the lines had already been drawn. And watu walikuwa wanakuja. Some of them want to, like very angry, like, oh, I bought this home because I wanted my child to go to this school. But just that home is on the other side.
It's on the other side.
It's right on the line. This neighborhood, you can see the kids across the neighborhood are going to a different school, not to a different, but because you don't engage from the beginning, the people who show up at the beginning are the ones who determine the direction of this process.
Exactly.
And how do you know the beginning? There's no you'll know a beginning if you do not participate.
And I think I want to take us back a little bit, especially for our people. Let me bring it home. You don't know what you don't know.
No.
Right? And so we can sit here all day and bid on this drama of like, our people need to engage. what are they engaging on?
Exactly.
You know, and so that's why platforms like this, where you bring in people who can talk about what it is to participate, how we can participate, where we need to participate, and when we need to do it, I think it's important. And that's what I learned the first time around. I learned that, you know, our people didn't realize that elections starts back in February. When you do what? When you go and caucus for your neighborhood, right? And then from there, you go from caucusing and signing up to be a delegate, right, to now the convention of the particular party that you're a part of. That convention determines who is given that endorsement. And sometimes in certain situations, that endorsement basically gives you the win, depending on, you know, how strong of a pool that district is, right? And then from there, you know, it doesn't end. Just because you got that endorsement doesn't mean that you won't have, there's primaries. A lot of people sit out primaries. If you do not vote in primaries, guess what? Your candidate is not going to be on that, quote, final November ballot where there is nothing you
Elections
can
are
do.
won in primaries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, elections are won. Some races are won in February when you come up and sign up to be a delegate.
Wow.
So you can go to the convention and vote, because you can't vote for a candidate unless you are a delegate in that convention. In my district, my fight was during the primaries because I never got that DFL endorsement. And so because my district is predominantly Democratic, it's a Democratic district. And so who won that DFL endorsement was it. My fight, November. I mean, in August at the primaries. That's where I finally secured that endorsement for the DFL party to take me to the November election. So participation is key, but we also need to, especially as elected officials, as folks who are in this space of communication, bringing that message to our people and also bringing value. Let's tell them this is why you need to participate. This is how this space impacts you on a daily basis. Because a lot of times I think we are stuck in this loop, right? We go to school, we go to church, and we go to work. And we recycle.
Yes.
We recycle.
Double shifts. Double shifts.
Mind you, double shifts, right? And we don't participate in this civic engagement. And we are losing out. We have been losing out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's HULDAH Momanyi Hiltsley, representative from the state of Minnesota. Number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We have Micah on standby. He's going to be talking to us shortly. But before Micah comes in, let me quickly read a few comments here that were coming in while we were having this conversation. Now I can see Mwakisha Mwakisha anasema wako wa Tanzania wanapigania hapa, wao ni socialism, Kenya ni capitalism. Okay, sasa hapa naona naona sasa tumeanza kuelekea mkondo mwingine tofauti. But tell us more, Mwakisha, about this what you're saying about wa Kenya ikiwa capitalism na wa Tanzania socialism. Sasa hata pia hapa US wa Tanzania bado wako ujamaa. I just want to know. And then Mwakisha is saying wako wengi VA. I think this was the time when we were asking about where most Tanzanians are. Anasema wengi wako VA. And then Amin Ali anasema Minnesota is a blue state. What priority is next for election 2028 to remain blue? Any comments? Guests of honor, we're going to talk about that. And then Upper Brown Sugar anasema there's a Tanzanian community in Columbia, Missouri. There we go. Anasema Tanzanian community in Columbia, Missouri.
Everywhere.
Okay.
I mean, the question was where they has concentration, and I think I believe somewhere in Texas.
Okay, so are they engaging in Columbia, Missouri?
Wichita, wako Hawaii.
Oh wow, very interesting. Okay.
Ohio.
Aya, sawa. Mika, one moment. Ngoja utakuja. You're coming in shortly. And then hapa Mwakisha Mwagendi bado anasema mimi ni nusu Mkenya Mtanzania. It seems Mwakisha is trying to play both. Hapa lazima you have to pick a side.
I think alikuwa namjibu wa mimi, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Okay, but you have to pick a side. Hakuna mambo ya nusu Mkenya, nusu Mtanzania.
Huyo ni nusu mkate.
Hatujui, but anasema nusu Mkenya, nusu Mtanzania. And then hapa Washeke says if it starts at PTA school boards which have the greatest impact on our children. And then Upper Brown Sugar is saying we've already started canvassing for John Ossoff next year's election. That's a congressman in Georgia.
Yes.
Okay.
Senator.
So ni senator. Yes. Okay, not congressman. Okay, the John Ossoff next year's election. That's gonna be a big one. That's gonna be a big one. and Reverend Warnock. Reverend Warnock, I don't know whether he's eligible next year. I don't think.
He's running.
No, I don't think he's gonna be eligible for election next year. Yake ni, I think it's gonna come in another in
2020.
watu wa Georgia tuambie when Reverend Warnock will come back for an election. And then Slay Appa has a question, and Slay is asking, by question is like Amina's 8 Democrats re-strategizing for 2028. So hapo I don't know whether it was a typo. Tell us who Amina is.
Maybe it's Amin Ali. Let me see.
Or anasema Amina's, even though vile ameandika. My question is like Amina's 8 Democrats strategizing for 2028. They are going to present a united front, and most importantly, how are they going to appeal to voters?
No, I think the question is like Amin's.
Okay, Amin's.
Yeah.
Okay.
How Democrats are strategizing for 2028. Are they going to present?
Yeah. And then hapa Mwakisha anasema the beginning matters, hujui usichokijua. Very true. Or I think Slay anajicorrect hapo, anasema meant are. Okay, not Amina. And then Brown Sugar anasema washeke mapema ndio best because we don't know who the magas will put to run against him. And then Mwakishapa anasema true participation muhimu, kweli tuende kanisa, kazi nyumbani. All right.
That's how most of I don't want to say most of East Africans, but wakitoka kazini, wako nyumbani, then wako kwenye nyumba ibada.
Yeah. Ama part moja umeskip kwenye bar. But Micah, sherehe. Kipiga sherehe. Let's go to Micah. Watch, Micah has been listening keenly. Talk to us, Micah. Tell us what you think. About what?
Ama iko kanisani.
Tell us what you think. About what Huldah has been talking about from the beginning of the show, Micah.
Thank you, Sana Ali. Unfortunately, I joined in while you guys were finishing up this discussion. It's been one of those Fridays where work refused to let me. Niko on call na vitu zinaleta shida, so hata sahi naweza wahepa anytime. But all in all, I caught the windtail of the conversation that you guys were having, mostly about participation. And I like what she said in terms of, yes, we can be castigating people and telling them you guys don't participate in these discussions, but what discussion?
Exactly.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yes, there needs to be that civic education, that sharing of knowledge that needs to happen within the community so people understand exactly what's at stake and what they need to do. Because if we are seeing what is happening right now, there was an executive order that was signed a few days ago that's supposed to change how elections are held in the country.
Wow.
Right? So this is the moment whereby people need to be taught and be educated on what power they have. Because most people, as we usually assume, I can tell you a lot of people wait to vote in November, every 2 years in November. I don't know, we're going to vote once every 4 years, right? Because that is the only thing they know about elections.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they don't want to participate, is they don't know.
They don't know what they don't know.
What they're participating, yes.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
So, and then, no, back to you, Ali.
Okay, sawa asante sana Micah. But I think one big pickup from what Micah said is that sometimes there's a lot of talk that you're not participating, but you're not participating in what? A lot of you don't know what you don't know. So
the question is, how are you going to know if you're not?
So Sasa, I think that's a challenge that
because to me participating includes showing up or listening to the show like this. Tune in and listen.
But the challenge, Sasa, now to people like Huldah and people now who have experience in this and are trying to get Kenyans to understand, is especially directing people to resources. One good resource that was brought up many years ago was sites like vote4and1.org, whereby you kind of know, because people really don't know. They don't know who their representative in the Board of Education is. They don't know, like who their council representative is. They don't know whether they live in an at-large district. They literally don't know these things.
But Ali, not only, I don't want to say we do that. You do that in this show, right? You
Yes.
break down.
Yes.
We bring these ballots. We
Yes.
talk about that. During ile bill ambayo ilikuwa inaendelea Kenya,
Yeah.
it was almost a series to break it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Tumepeleka ng'ombe kwa mto. Tutamlazimisha kunywa maji.
Ndo
We
hapo
are
sasa.
doing that. I mean, we expect somebody also to just pick up. Unajua wanasema kuna haki na wajibu, right? Right
Yeah.
and responsibility.
And I think too, a big part of that, what you're saying is that even if we show up in those places, we don't have people who look like us there.
Yes.
So even that also holds us back.
That
right?
intimidates people.
And that's why this seat is important. And I think it was Ali, you talked about why this is critical, because our people is all about that perception that, actually seeing something come to fruition, and I think we're seeing a lot of us, not only here in the diaspora, but also in Kenya going, hey, he get to, it's possible.
Yeah.
Right. Until that, I think it was a light switch for us. So,
Yes.
so I am hoping that, this seat is just a wake up call to our people that, we have come here, we have invested here. And most importantly, a lot of us are not going back home. Whatever you find yourself in, that's another
reality.
thing.
Reality
The
check.
reality is we're not going. Most of us have kids, right? Some of these kids, when you take them back home, what do they say? Take me back home. Where is their home? Their home is here. We are bearing our own here.
Reality check.
America, right?
Yeah.
and so we as a community, not only Kenyans, East Africans, immigrants in general, we need to understand our time and place and our role in this country.
Yes.
We need to know that we also deserve what this country has to offer. We need to know that we can no longer sit here and be comfortable in the current situation we are in, because again, some of us came here with one foot here and another foot where? Pale, Kenya. Some of us has built mansions in Ushago,
Yes.
as if you're going to live there.
Yes, waiting for that moment to come.
That moment is not coming.
That
my friends.
moment. That
if it comes
moment.
for you, great.
The way you're saying that, there are some people here who are telling you
Why
you don't
are
know
you
what you're
looking at
talking
your
about.
No, let them come talk to me 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
They're still here.
Okay.
And again, I'm not saying all of us. I'm saying the majority of us are not
Statistics show.
going back.
Yeah. Statistics, you can't fight statistics.
But I think the other thing that we do have as East Africans, something there's something kwa Kiswahili tunasema unapenda faida hautaki mtaji. You know? Yeah. You want that profit, but you really don't want to invest. If you ask her, how was your schedule from February to, it's like what she went through, how much sacrifice,
How many shoes she went through?
Yeah. So
that too.
that's the thing that watu wanataka faida, hatutaki mtaji.
Yeah.
Unafanya maombi, utaki kuwa majibu ya yale
Yeah.
maombi. So we're sitting here enjoying, tunampigia makofi, lakini tukiambiwa tuingie kwenye position aliyopo, and I can almost guarantee amongst the East African community there are people who have more time than her, probably talented,
Yeah.
they can speak better than her, they have more money, they have time and everything she needed to win the election, they do have more.
Yeah.
But they don't have that will, they don't want to take that risk,
Yeah.
and they just sit down and complain, which is the easiest thing to do.
Na bandio pia ushasema mara nyingi, kuna watu wanataka kustarehe lakini wataki kuhangaika.
Yep.
Ama wanataka kwenda peponi lakini wataki
hawataki
kufa.
kufa. Yep.
Yeah. Wanataka kwenda peponi straight lakini wataki kufa.
Hataki kufa.
Kwenda moja kwa moja. Yeah.
I think also there's an aspect also of what politics, how we've been shaped by politics
By
from
our
home.
local politics.
So politics from home, we it's almost like we have politics apathy, if that's what you want to call it. And you look at politics and you say, okay, that's theirs, that's there. I am just a regular Joe Blow and I don't belong in there. Like politics
issue,
is
Oh
just
yes,
not-
with that,
absolutely.
The issue with that is we end up kuwa kama mihogo ambayo imepikwa. Muhogo, and I always say this, right? Unajua, muhogo unaweza ukaula ukiwa mbichi.
Yeah.
Correct.
Unaweza ukaula ukiwa umepikwa umeiva.
Yes.
Ila ukipikwa usipoiva, ukiula utaharisha.
Yes.
And
kabisa.
that's where we are. We're in between. We are not Kenyans anymore. We are not Americans anymore. We are somewhere in
Yani
between.
huku hatuko na
And
huku hatuko.
we're trying to hold into
And-
what we
Yeah.
thought Kenya
Yes.
or
So-
East Africa is.
So ukimwambia hivyo nakwambia kwamba nafikiria nitarudi Tanzania, Hataki kuinvest
When?
hapa. na invest kule.
When is this?
Alafu
aha
ukirudi
moment
nyumbani
supposed to happen?
ukishakaa wiki 3 ushaanza kutatizika, hakuna DoorDash, hakuna
Yes.
ushaanza kutatizika na vitu vidogo tu.
And by the way, those
Yeah.
chaps tell you don't belong.
Yeah, kabisa.
and
Yeah.
listen,
They tell you don't belong. What are you doing here? Go back.
Yeah.
The Kenya that most of us left is not the same Kenya that it is today. It is not. And so the sooner we come to that realization, the better. And we have a long way to go.
Okay. All right. I want to remind the listeners, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak.
Yes.
Who will
Call,
be the
call,
first caller?
call.
We are seeing a lot of comments coming in here. Waremo, please tell us if the volume is okay now on YouTube. It was a bit lower.
She did. She said
okay.
it's
Okay.
much better.
Okay. Okay, good.
Shake pig.
Okay, yeah. 202 Sheke Slay.
Sheke ana service kule nini.
I can see
Kule
Mwakisha.
gerezani Juba.
Juba. Juba kule hakuna service, yuko pangoni pali na Riek Machar. Ama sijui kama yuko na Salva Kiir Mayardit. Atatueleza hapo. And then hapa Mwakisha anasema unapenda faida na huna mtaji. But now, like, let's slowly transition because we're talking about what's happening back home in Kenya. Now, before you were sworn in, after you had won, or I don't know whether you had already been sworn in. No, I think it was before you were sworn in when you took your trip
Correct.
to Kenya. Yeah. So you went back home now as representative elect. And you were actually officially
And
invited.
celebrity too.
Yes, and celebrity too. Yeah. So talk to us about that experience. Like how long had it been before you had gone to Kenya, before you took this trip, and what was it like for you?
Yeah, it's amazing now that I'm looking back at that moment, because after that announcement, after that night, it was this roller coaster of events and just a lot of things were happening. It was like chaos, organized chaos to some extent. So yes, I did go as an elected representative-elect. I wasn't sworn in yet officially. And the reason why, because a lot of people were asking me, why don't you wait until you get sworn in before you go? Once I get sworn in, I am definitely now an asset of the U.S. government.
Asset,
and
yes.
Okay,
Asset. That's what we're talking about.
There are protocols.
Yeah.
there are protocols to be followed, and there's a lot of
blah blah. Yes,
all of that.
yes, yes.
And so I talked to the ethics committee at the Capitol in Minnesota, and they gave me options. If you do decide to go now, you don't have any strings attached because you're not officially sworn in, right? But if you go after, there are certain protocols that must be followed, as you are now engaging a foreign
government
entity.
Wow.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I wanted that freedom to go and just celebrate. And thank you to folks like you who reminded me the magnitude of this moment. I just wanted to go home, go to Ushago, and go to my grandmother's and just pay homage to her legacy. That one. And so that was my whole game plan. And I talked to my dad. And originally it was just going to be me and my sister going there and going to Ushago and just for a couple of days and then coming back. But because of this show and because of because of you people,
Cecil to adjust me.
you people put me on a different platform that I was not expecting, that I'm not used to. And for those people who know me, I'm not this, showy. I like, believe it or not, I like doing things in the background. I don't like to go out there and say, now this is me, nimefika hapa. That's just not how I roll. That's not in my DNA. And so because of that, it went from, being a government invite to now this whole
Homecoming ceremony.
And those 8 days were the most hectic, the most interesting, but also fulfilling, because it reminded me that I come from a community who is so proudful, who is, it celebrates when we win. And so I was reminded throughout that trip that I'm a Kenyan. I'm a proud Kenyan American. And the way I was welcomed, it shocked me. And the fact that I was able to walk through some doors that not common mwananchi can be able to walk through. Even right now, I am shocked when I think about, all of a sudden I get a text message from CS from here, PS from here. This young girl, from some village somewhere, that I am being acknowledged on that level. And so that trip was definitely a trip of a lifetime, but also a trip that made me learn a lot of lessons in this space.
Yes, talk about those lessons. Let's talk about some of those lessons that you learned.
Mosh, your brother is coming for me now.
Character development.
Character development was definitely developing.
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
Yes. So lessons learned. I was all of a sudden put in this spotlight, where I was not used to. All of a sudden now I'm this mheshimiwa, and there's protocol to be followed. And one of the lessons that I learned is that when you walk into a room and you don't know who's in the room, acknowledge the highest ranking member in that room and then say what? All protocols observed.
Yes.
Exactly. So that really helped me a long way because people thought that I really knew the protocols in Kenya, but also other lessons in terms of, still being humble with everything that was coming at me, because there was times where, everybody wanted to cater to everything that, I needed, quote, that I thought I needed. But keeping humble and realizing that my DNA is about serving people. And not the spotlight. And so that was just a reminder that, to just, don't forget why I stepped into this role to begin with. Yeah. And then there were some hard, very interesting lessons that I learned, how you engage with media. And this team right here, you guys came to my aid. And especially there was an incident that happened with Citizen TV.
Talk about that incident because some people want to know about it. You had a viral moment.
There was a viral moment that I was not expecting. And mind you now, it was go. My schedule was from 6 a.m. until sometimes 2 a.m. in the morning, because we were trying to cram in as many meetings as possible. Folks really wanted to connect with me and on various topics, which I was grateful for because I also went there to do what? What do politicians from Kenya do when they come here?
Benchmark.
I was also there benchmarking, right?
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I got the holistic picture of what's possible, what's not possible, because, my priority is the people of Senate District 38A, is the people of the state of Minnesota, right? And so now that I am in this position, I have to engage in a manner that brings value back into my constituency and into the state of Minnesota. And so that's my thought process when I was going in there, the conversations that I was having with whoever it was. But again, going back to your question in regards to that viral moment, it was, I was rushing in to be seated at Nyayo Stadium for Jamhuri Day celebrations. And there was media all over. And as soon as I walked in, they came to me, specifically Citizen TV, and the gentleman was like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm over here like, the president's security team was saying, she needs to go sit down. We are ready to go. Let's go. And his reporter is like, just one question, Mheshimiwa. And in that whole chaos, I stated something that, for those people who know me, know that I didn't mean. And that was a lesson learned in terms of...
What exactly was it?
What exactly did I say? I know people have been waiting to hear. So I said, I know the president has the heart of the people, when I meant to say, I don't know if the president has the heart of the people because of what has been going on in the country, of what the Gen Zs have been fighting for. And us in the diaspora who have been very intentional about following what was happening during that time and continues to happen to this day. And so I have been very intentional about, voicing my opinion about what has been happening. But at that moment, right? I made a statement that definitely got me into some very interesting and peculiar situation where it completely disregarded a whole group of people who are genuinely out here exercising their rights to the democracy that it is Kenya. And for that, obviously everything started, that moment went viral. And to this day, that was a hard learned lesson.
Did you receive some revolutionary greetings from Gen Zs?
My friend, they wanted to know where I live.
Kusalimiwa.
Nilisalimiwa. Proper, by the way. Proper.
Okay.
And I hope that same energy that they continue to have, they will bring it to 2027. So, so and I applaud, the Gen Zs and individuals in general for exercising the right to be vocal, to voice, their opinion about what's going on, the situation on the ground as well. So
to be clear, you did not mean to say President Ruto has a heart for Kenyans. You meant to say you did not think that President Ruto had a heart for Kenya.
Exactly. What I meant to say is I don't know if President Ruto has the heart of the people of Kenya.
Okay, so that's corrected now. Gen Z's wala limsalimia. The correction has been made.
So in other words, I may apologize.
Yes.
Kwa sababu kuna vile waliona. This is I may apologize. I'm apologize. Omera, she can be greeted.
No. I think I think this is and it's not the first time that I think she's mentioned this.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so I think Gen Z's walielewa, but Gen Z's react. They don't wait. They don't wait to know like if it was a mistake ama nini. They react instantly, and it has worked well. Sometimes, and it has also made people careful before I go say something on social media.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is what I need to. This is what I need to do now. What other experiences besides that viral moment? What other experiences did you learn from Kenya, or what did you pick up from Kenya that you figured out that you could be of help to the Kenyan diaspora population? Because we know you're representing District 38A, but a lot of Kenyans now are looking at you from across the U.S. So what are things, is there anything that you picked up that you can be able to do in your official capacity to be able to help Kenyans here?
Yeah, thank you so much for that, because I think it's important to know and realize that, one of the biggest challenges that I have in this role is managing expectations. And people automatically assume that, this role encompasses a whole lot of plethora of power,
like
right?
Receiving brown envelopes, like Omosh
like Omosh said, which is 100% not true. There's no brown envelopes involved.
I'm sure kuna makaratasi au tumia ya kopia. Siyo ni tenda.
Well, from that perspective, and so as a state, let me just speak for the state of Minnesota, and I'm speaking as an individual, not on behalf of the state of Minnesota. Let me just make sure that we are clarifying that.
Disclaimer.
Yes, that's a disclaimer that I'm putting out there. But there is opportunities.
This envelope is not becoming brown; it's becoming white.
But there is opportunities to, as a state, that we have to engage with foreign entities. For example, I'll give you a good example. The mayor of my city was able to go to Japan and look at, because we're trying to build a biotech industry neighborhood in our city, and engage with them and figure out what's possible, what's not possible. For certain companies to come in and invest in the state of Minnesota. For me, ultimately, is to bring value to the state of Minnesota and tapping into the very high level of well-educated Kenyan population that do not have the luxury of finding jobs, even after some of our learned folks have master's degrees, and yet they still can't find a job. And so looking at how do we create a partnership with the state of Minnesota and Kenya that is mutually beneficial, right?
Okay.
Where we are either exporting our goods from here to Kenya, or exporting goods from
From
Kenya,
Kenya
especially
to
from
here.
Kenya to here, because of the demographics of the
Okay.
state of Minnesota and the African immigrant population that is very heavily concentrated in my district.
Yes.
Right, 33% of my district is African immigrant community.
That is very interesting.
We have grocery stores of now ran by African immigrants. We have consulting businesses. We have nursing home business, healthcare businesses. And so how do we tap into what Kenya has to offer in terms of not only knowledge and educated manpower, but also the ability to share information that is equally mutually beneficial for both the state of Minnesota and the country of Kenya. And so that drives me to this whole idea of mobilizing a trade economic mission to Kenya. My team and I are engaging the governor of the state of Minnesota to come up with a delegation that will go to Kenya. They have been wanting to do that for a very long time.
Wow.
But now that I'm here, officially a Kenyan American, it just happened to just fall at the right time where now the governor is really interested in doing it. And those are conversations that we'll continue to have. And it will be around, just introducing the governor to what the possibilities are for Kenya if we invest as a state in Kenya, what we will get back. And that's the ultimate goal for us as a delegation when we go there, hopefully this year, early next year. We'll see. That conversation is still in the works.
Okay, so you're talking. Wow, that's quite interesting.
This is
That
huge.
is that is huge.
This is huge because she's not even talking like a lot of people tell you, oh, sister city, CGRT. She's
doing business.
Yeah, they're talking at state of Minnesota and the country of Kenya. Which means you're opening up for education, you're opening up for agriculture, you're opening up for things like transportation. Like, what are the things that are happening in Minnesota transportation-wise that could be harnessed and or used in
Kenya.
cities in Kenya? Sister city possible as well, with maybe Nairobi or some other place, it doesn't have to be. But I know agriculture is huge,
Huge.
And then things like growth of crops, fertilizers, also the list is long.
And
when we talk about
long.
agriculture, I had the opportunity of going to a couple of counties, and they are producing dried, the kienyeji greens, right? And a lot of our people are here.
Correct.
Can you imagine having those greens be imported back to the U.S. for us to consume? Not only just Minnesotans, right? Targeting the key demographics around the country where our people are concentrated. And so you look at the making it easier for trade, for exports. We haven't done a good job of making it easy for us to invest in Kenya. Right. And so the idea of, looking at how do we open those channels of economic development that are mutually beneficial is going to be the key for me. And again, if it's not beneficial for the state of Minnesota, we're going to have a different conversation about that. Okay. But I think we have enough there to make a case for that to happen, especially, again, with the demographics of the state of Minnesota and how diverse the state of Minnesota is. Because not only are you looking at the African immigrant, not only are you looking at Kenya, East Africa, now you're looking at the African immigrant population and then the other populations that make up the state of Minnesota that love our culture, that love our food, that love our music. And so tapping into that is going to be key. And you talked about sister cities. That is just a part of the game plan,
the
right?
Global,
I was just
picture.
talking about like the high level, is what we're trying to do. But how amazing would it be to have sister schools? Right?
Yeah.
Sister clubs.
Yeah.
From
programs.
Nyanza, we have, especially Kisii, Kenya, Kisii, we have Shabana. I'm Shabana, yay, Shabana. I don't know about the rest of y'all. Okay, this is the first disagreement.
No, it's okay. It's okay. At least Shabana has come back. Someone who would really love to hear her saying she's pro Shabana is Banti. Yeah?
Yes, Banti is Shabana.
Banti like now is he's probably what is it? He's probably doing like what is that, Texas two-step or something like that.
Yeah,
but Nisawa and the doors that are for me, I see those sorts of opportunities of like, you know, you mentioned something which I remember it being done quite a lot back in the day when I was going to school, where they used to do exchange programs with students and schools, and you would have host families that would bring in students like from Australia, and they would come and stay for like 6 months or whatever, and then their kids would go to Australia.
You want to know an interesting story?
Hey, go ahead with your story.
Did you host?
I
think he was one of them. Let's see.
I actually participated in an exchange program when I was 11 years old.
11?
Yes.
That was 1960.
It was recently. It was recently. I mean, I'm nowhere close to. Don't compare me to Omosh.
Wait. Stick to the focus.
And it was in the 90s. I participated in an exchange program and went to a city called Gothenburg in Sweden. And I think we spent about 2 months there. It was stuck in the middle of the school term, but because I like I wasn't the dumbest student. I was actually a very good student. So the head teacher allowed, because it's very rare for a school to allow a student to go away for that long period of time. So it was a big deal. I remember it was announced on parade ground in school. And that was a very big deal. So that's a very unforgettable experience, and I'm still connected to some of the people who we participated in that exchange program. It was one that was called Children's International Summer Villages, CISV. If you can Google that, mjukuu alikuwa hapo ndani.
Did they also reciprocate, meaning that you got guys from Sweden or they were from other places?
So the one we went for, it had people from the camp we went for, had people from 12 different countries. Okay. America, Russia. It was a cultural exchange program, and we were living in a school. Okay. You know, like actually later on,
like dorms and
is
stuff
when I learned that was a boarding school. It was very luxurious. It was a very luxurious school. Okay. But that's where we're living. But before you go to the school, you actually go spend some time with a family, like for a week. Okay. And then you go to the camp. And then in the middle of the camp, you go spend time with another family. And then at the end of the camp, you also go spend time with another family. It was very interesting. Being in Sweden, sometimes you're meeting people who are meeting the first black person ever.
Absolutely.
You know, like you see people, like touching your hair.
Yes. My friend, I was in China.
Yeah. So
Guangzhou in China, and people thought I was Serena Williams. People were touching my hair, my skin. Maze, that country, people were being tourists in their own country.
But when was that? Because nowadays Guangzhou is like...
Nowadays Guangzou, there's a lot of Africans, Nowadays Africans,
we are.
Now, before we go to the comments, let's remind the listeners you're tuning to One Mic Show. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Please call, dial, and *5 to speak. Before you go to the comments, question to you. As a state rep, how many people do you have in your team? Who determines the number and who pays them?
So the state of Minnesota, each state has the luxury of, creating their own structure of governance or administration, right? And so we have a team as the legislator, as the Minnesota House of Representatives. We have a team that basically addresses the basic needs of you being a representative. So you have a team that handles your communications, your social media, your anything that pertains to your communications. There's a team that handles that. There's a team that does a lot of research. When we are drafting bills, that's a whole other session that we need to talk about, because just because the governor signs that bill doesn't mean that it just dropped from heaven yesterday. No, some of these bills have been being worked on for years on end. And so we have research team that if you take him a simple thing as, I want to write a bill that appropriates funding for One Mic Show, right? So that team goes and does research, make sure that they point out every possible wrong and every possible positive thing about this idea, and then puts it in bill form. And then from there, obviously, what we call the jacket, now the bill, and the process continues. So you have a team for that. You have a team, a leadership team that basically manages the whole entire House of Representatives. Both, sides, it doesn't matter the party, right? That leadership team basically determines how the administrative staff is the operations of the House of Representatives is done. And then each party has its own set of teams that handles certain specifics that pertains to that party. So there's a lot of components.
It's a whole machinery.
There's a whole machine. And then there are obviously capital staff. There are people who make sure, we call in pages, who make sure that, the representatives have everything.
Yeah, but how many work for the Office of Rep of District 38?
38A. So I would say directly, I don't hire them. The capital, the operational team does that. I would say I have a legislative assistant. I would say about 4 direct people who support the work that I do. And then obviously the research team, we all share that. The other.
And if you don't hire them, how much voice do you have to tell them, don't, can you just say, I need to exchange, I need a new one, I don't like this one here, or we don't get along? I mean, if one of them is a MAGA and you're trying to...
For the most part, when they are interviewing, especially for specific roles.
Are you part of the interview?
No, I'm not.
So those are people you just find there.
Right. But they are very intentional. That's where leadership for both parties interview, and that person has to be passionate about the party. That person has to, have the right.
So if
depending on what role, if it's particular to me as a legislator, they have to align with.
So if Omosh, for example, wants you to fix him because you're there, the way in Kenya, once someone gets into once someone gets into parliament, they fix their people. They give someone a position. That's what happens in Kenya.
Your brother becomes your PA.
Yeah, becomes your PA. Yeah, that's what happens in Kenya's parliament.
No, and that's honestly, I appreciate that very much in the sense that we are allowing experts to bring in people who will actually do the work, right? Not my brother. And we're not saying that at the federal level, obviously, because if you see who is being assigned to what, that speaks different volume, right? But for us, I appreciate the fact that, because if I had that responsibility, honestly, I don't think I want that responsibility to hire my own staff, right? Because I want to make sure.
You're putting in your people.
I know, but my people might not have that skill set that I need. Do they understand how this protocol works? Do they, you know what I'm saying? Like, do they understand the ins and workings? Because in this space, things move so quickly. If you miss something, that has passed. That literally will kill your bill. That will kill the conversations. That will kill whatever it is that you're trying to do. And I'm not saying that our people don't have, can't acquire that skill set. But I'm glad that we have a team that, is able to, and they will ask us, like, what are you looking for? What is it that, you want to accomplish?
So it's not in a vacuum. It's not blind. They will consult with you so that to make sure that you have the right people.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was very intentional. Some of us are very intentional. For me personally, I did recommend a couple of candidates. I told him, look, these are folks that I worked with on the campaign trail.
Yeah. That was my next question.
Because listen here, just because you are my people, you are my brother, doesn't mean that you belong in that space. And a lot of times that's what happens in Kenya, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
You just put your person there because that's your person, or maybe because they gave you something during the campaign, so you feel obligated.
Yes. Payback.
We don't have to.
Back, yes.
I don't have that burden. I want to make sure who's in that role knows exactly what they need to do, so that, especially with the dynamic of what's going on right now, I needed somebody in that role that understood exactly what's going on, because I have no idea. Mind you, now I'm brand new to all of this. I'm learning as I go.
Yes.
And so
you can't start
now I'm sitting here at Ali Sasa. Let's figure this out. Yeah. My friend, we don't have time to figure it out.
Yeah. ChatGPT.
What has been the biggest OMG or the biggest shock moment? The biggest, I don't know. I mean, oh gosh, I didn't know.
There has been a lot of OMGs.
Okay.
But I think the one of the biggest OMG is the ins and workings, the dealings behind closed doors, behind the curtains.
yeah.
That happens
Oh, yes.
before a bill even reaches the committees.
where brown envelopes exchange hands.
I don't know about those brown envelopes are bills,
Oh, okay.
not necessarily.
Or here they're called pork.
Okay, that is Ali's perspective.
Well.
But
Just saying.
but for me that was the aha moment, and it reminded me how important relationships, genuinely building relationships, will go a long way. People will kill your bill for the pettiest things. I didn't like that comment you said in that committee, so I'm not signing on to
Or
your
you
bill.
looked at me the wrong way.
Oh, you looked at me the wrong way. Stuff like that. And so I was very intentional when we first got when we were sworn in and when we were doing orientation. I was very intentional on making sure that I understood who was from my party, the 7 of us who were Democrats and then the 22 who were on the other side. And I was very intentional about reaching out to the other side and creating relationships.
With
and
the Republicans.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, again, we are a tight house. So regardless of what happens, we need support from either side to get anything done. And I have to say that work that went into the pre-work that went into creating those relationships prior to now us convening on the floor on, I think it was sometime in February, really have paid dividends. Because now they know that Huldah will do what? She might not agree 100%, but she will listen. And at the same time, they give me the same courtesy. So I would have bills and I would go up to my GOP counterpart and go, look, I have this bill. This is what it does. Are you willing to sign on with me? And the more bipartisan you have, the better chances of you having your bill heard in the committee. And then moving it from committee to the floor. And then from there, it being passed into law.
So do you support or have you supported any of the GOP bills?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I have, because I didn't get into this business to play party politics. I got into this business to serve the people of my district and the state of Minnesota, the folks who voted us in.
Which is going to go back to Ali's
Yes.
question. What do you say, knowing what you know right now and know the dealings and stuff, you do understand what Chuck Schumer did?
Do we want to touch that? Do we really want to go there?
Go for it. Go for it.
Just briefly.
I want to plead the fifth on that because there's a lot of factors that played into that situation that are very touchy.
No, but I'm not saying
be...
you saying he did it right or wrong, but you do understand what pressure might have been or, going through and stuff to get to that point because...
Okay, so let me talk about the pressure side. That side I can talk about. When you're in this, you have your caucus. You have your party caucus. And there's an agenda that party caucus, the party leadership has. And there's a lot of pressure to align with that party agenda. And so there's sometimes where I sit back and I go, I'm an individual. My one vote is the same vote as the leader of the party's vote, right? And so voting against party lines is very interesting and tricky in this space because you don't want to be the person who voted against. You
will
the
be
party.
remembered.
That's a black mark.
You will be
reminded.
Revisited.
Yes. It's a black mark. If somebody is marked somewhere, said,
exactly.
Note to self.
Exactly. But for me, at the end of the day, I have to be rooted in why I got into this to begin with. And that has helped me make those decisions. And there's times where the party says we are voting this way. And depending on how critical that bill is, I will vote with my conscience. And I think that is so important for us to remember that, we did not get elected by a party, but we got elected by the people.
Yeah, and actually Slay here, before I read the comments, Slay is asking, he's saying, I don't know if you spoke of it already, but I saw somewhere you tabled your first bill or something of that sort. So maybe briefly tell us about that.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot of protocols, right? Tabling meaning that I think she meant that bill was laid over for a possible inclusion. So there is this So there's a lot of bills. Right now, I think we are at 4,000 bills that have been drafted just for this year.
Huh?
Exactly.
4,000.
4,000. A bill as simple as I want money to buy mboga, right? You can literally write a bill about anything.
So that's now getting to local politics, because I think people are familiar with congressional politics, but now local, the things are actually very local, including
Very
issues
local.
of buying boga.
Issues about
Yes.
buying boga.
Okay.
If I had a group of people from my constituency who came up to me and said, I need you to draft a bill around, Kenyan rumba music and to provide funding for that and education around that, I'm obligated to draft that.
I guess
right?
Jojo hasn't got to her yet.
Yeah.
Jojo is still
Jojo's
working
coming.
on
Yeah,
it.
Jojo
Jojo
is
is
coming.
coming.
Yeah, he's on
Jojo is
But
coming.
he's doing a lot of good work. So going back to what I was saying, so it is important to understand the process and how it works. And so I think we were talking about, remind me again, because it literally just went over
The
my
bills.
head. You took me
The
to
bills.
Jojo.
4,000
The bills, about 4,000 bills.
And what's sitting and what's drafted.
Oh, yes.
The, the first bill
yes.
that you...
Yes.
yeah.
So a lot of those 4,000 bills, it dwindles down to probably a couple hundred that will even be considered, right?
Wow.
And from there, some of the bills, depending on the nature of the bills, they are consolidated together into what we call an omnibus bill.
Wow. Hey.
One bill that encompasses all of this. And the heads of the committees will debate that, all of those. Sometimes that's why you hear, hey, that thing was removed so that the omnibus could pass.
Yeah, because I hear that
So
word
that-
omnibus a lot of times. And a lot of people hear it,
Exactly.
they don't know
They have
what it means.
no idea
They
what that
think-
means. So it's that's a whole bunch of bills put together under one bill.
Okay.
And that's why you need to pay attention to the omnibus
details,
bill, because
yes.
there's a bill that can slip in there that you do not want to go, and then it gets passed along with the omnibus bill, and now it's law, and now you have to
So
do
is that
with
where
it.
people throw in a bridge or a road?
Anything
or
and
anything can
everything.
slip in.
Yeah. So when I said, my first bill, it was basically layover to be included in the omnibus, to be considered, not included, to be considered to be a part of the omnibus bill. That's why I ended my statement by saying, make sure it's on top of the list, because if it's not, depending on who is sitting at that table making that decision,
Yeah.
determines what ends up on that omnibus bill.
So there's quite a learning curve, like once you get
There
in
is.
there to know what's effective. Because I think, like in my mind, I was always sitting and thinking, mimi ile siku ndafika huko, I already have my list of things I want, and I table them, pop. Like they're very, they're very, they're very effective. They're very
Huyu ndio
popular.
mwenye mihogo.
Yeah, I just throw them in, we debate them, and people like them, and the bill gets passed. But then you're saying out of 4,000, only a couple hundred will be considered. So that
Will be
means
considered.
means
If, exactly.
means most of what you do. So let's say like if your office is doing, I don't know how many bills you consider per year. So let's say like if you write maybe like 20 bills in 1
Currently,
year.
I have 19 bills,
Okay.
right? And
Oh,
out
so
of
that's a good
19
number, yeah.
bills, I have about probably 9 that have been either heard or are scheduled to be to have a hearing in whatever committee.
So
that
not
they
even
find
made the cut to be debated in the plenary. It's
Well, right now we are still in the stages of having committee hearings for all of our bills, and next week is going to be the last week where we can, unless the leadership decides to add one more session.
yeah.
So there's some bills that I've drafted that will not see the light of day. But
important to know.
This time around.
at this time around,
Yeah.
but they're drafted. You went and talked about having your bills ready. That's also another learning curve, right? Looking back now, I would have gone to my community, and I've been having these conversations because the fact that I didn't know how the process works, I'm still having people drafting bills right now. I shouldn't be drafting bills right now.
So
I
you
should
should
have
have
had
them ready.
already done, thrown into the hopper. The file numbers have been issued for those bills, and all I'm doing is working those relationships to
So
make
you
sure
get ahead
again,
of the
push
curve.
them.
to push them, because if you don't push your bills, nobody's going to push your bills for
Correct.
you.
Ah, okay.
That's why representation matters. You can go to your house, your congressperson right now, and say, hey, I want to champion this bill, can you write it? They'll tell you, of course I will write it, you're my constituent. but check and see the status of that bill and how far that bill has gone. That will tell you whether or not they've put in the work.
I think part of the problem that we have in the United States generally, and I think across the world, is that these inside workings are still very mysterious to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
A lot of people who bring in issues, things are very mysterious because you're being told it's at this stage or that. That means nothing to the constituent.
Exactly.
Yeah, but especially issues that are widely, that people are asking for widely. And then you have these special interest groups that have ways of fast tracking any little thing that they want.
So again, I am learning, and the learning curve is quite high. And these are the things that nobody tells you about. You know, that transition that we talked earlier, from being a candidate, being in la la land of this is my manifesto, this is what I'll do, to now I need to govern, right? And understanding what that actually entails. And so if you don't have those relationships, if you are not, you know, in talks with the so-and-so, knowing who the key stakeholders, knowing who actually has real power to kill or, you know, help your bill move forward, you will sit here just twiddling your thumb wondering why nothing is being happened.
So just writing an awesome bill means nothing.
Means nothing unless you have a great
connections,
you know, a great representative who is willing to not only work that bill, we call it working that bill, making sure that you are connecting with the chairs of these committees that your bill ends up on, right? Having a relationship with them, bringing value to them, and say, if it's basically, that's where the dealings come in. If you help me over here, you know, I know you have a bill over there that you want to. I sit on legacy committee.
Scratch
you know,
my back, I scratch your back. Lobbying
it's
and all of that.
And going back to my friend, when you hear lobbying, these people are paid to work bills on legislators, right? Right now, there's somebody who is paid to come to me and tell me all the amazing things about this bill and what we need. And some of them will even put in the work for you. We'll go get those signatures for you. Because as a bill, you have to have, you know, obviously your signature and then collect other supporting signatures before it's even considered.
So that's what makes American politics very expensive.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let me read a few comments here that have been coming in thick and fast. You know, like we've been so engaged here. Some good comments. Yes, of course. Number to call 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak for a chance to speak to Huldah, Representative District 38A, Minnesota. Now, Amin Ali was earlier asking if you had a chance to meet Ilhan Omar from Congress. Have you ever had a chance to meet her or engage with her?
Absolutely. That's my sister from the East African community.
Okay.
That is somebody that obviously when I stepped into this role, she has been somebody that I have followed. She was in the House before she transitioned. Actually, when
Keith Ellison,
Keith Ellison stepped down to come and run for AG, you know, that opportunity opened up for her to, you know, vie for Congress.
Keith Ellison is very big in the Muslim community because he was the first Muslim U.S. in Congress.
Yes.
So he's been very big, and I've always wondered, you know, like if he's ever gonna run for the Senate in Minnesota, but I think he's comfortable where he is.
I think he understands the magnitude of what he brings to that role as AG in this time. We cannot afford to have a vacancy in his role and trying to figure out who's going to come and fill his shoes, because he has an agenda that really he's fighting the battles that we ourselves cannot fight in regards to protecting the
just
the
like
people.
Trump understood the magnitude of pulling out his UN.
Yes, the UN rep to go, but that's a story for another day.
Let's go to
So Mwakisha here says, "Don't greet her; she's honest." I think this was he's referring to the Gen Zs, and then anasema District 38A ni kutumikia wananchi, and I have tried by myself. Kenyans don't share information. I thank God my colleagues are employed as sonographers in Minnesota. And then I think
this is when we were talking about I think what she can do or what we need to do, how they can engage. You know, it's like we can bring anything to the table, but are they willing to share? I think that's what.
And just making a quick point in regards to sharing information. And my brothers, we as Kenyans, East Africans, Africans in general, we don't share information, period, because we fear if I share this information, that person's going to go atanipita, I'll do better.
Or they'll use it against us.
And they'll use it against us.
Yes.
I'm not saying that there's some really interesting characters that have confirmed that, but the pros of sharing information outweighs the cons of
Correct.
it.
Correct.
Completely outweighs. Like for me, I don't mind sharing information because I know that if I share information and somebody does it better than me, guess what? That's more people who are being helped.
That's more people, yeah.
Right? And then from my end too, if I share information, I'm not worried about you coming in and doing it better than I am. If you do it, I will give you your flowers. But I know the work that I put into it. Are you going to stay up until 3 a.m. doing these things?
I think the biggest problem is the educational culture where we came from, where they used to rank students from number one to number last.
Yeah.
And whereby, because you're trying to be number one, you don't want to share information because you feel like if you share this information on maybe what might possibly come in the test, then they'll do better than you, and then you'll become number 2 or number 3. So I think that has part to do with why people are cultured not to share information. Now here, more comments here. Slay saying we know Gor Mahia in Nyanza. That was when you were talking about Shabana. And then Slay is asking, did MEC have exchange programs? MEC is the primary school I attended, Moi Educational Center. The exchange program I attended was not necessarily tied to Moi Educational Center, but it was this organization that was speaking.
Let's let know the organization. Maybe
It's called,
she wants to sponsor someone.
It's called Children's International Summer Villages, CISV. You can Google that.
Are they still active, or you're not sure?
They're still fairly active. I think COVID made them take a pause in those camps because they typically have multiple camps in different parts of the world where you have students from, or rather kids, from different parts of the world meeting, and then you're mixed up when you go there, because in the Kenyan delegation we were 4. 2 boys, 2 girls, and then there was a leader and a junior counselor, so a delegation of 6. And then when you get there, you're mixed up. Now, like in my room, there was a guy from Finland, there was a guy from Russia, and by the way, at that age, some of them don't even know English. So in Abidi Mnini, in fact, people were very, very shocked at how eloquent the Kenyans were in English.
English.
That was totally shocking.
You were teaching this folks English
to a lot of people, and then you teach people about your culture, and then people say what they like about, or what they know about your culture. So it was a very, very interesting experience. Even going and staying with the families. I remember that was my first time to get into a roller coaster. I did not even know what a roller coaster is, because the best I think in Kenya we had was Luna Park, banana boat, merry-go-round. So it was a very interesting experience.
And I think those exchange programs are so important, especially at that age where those are the formative years.
You're very impressionable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it also allows folks from different countries to have a good understanding of the real understanding of a certain individuals, whatever their culture is. Because a lot of times, most of us have experienced. So, do you live with lions? Do you?
Yes.
All of that stuff, right? It breaks all that down when you have those cultural exchanges and you're having honest conversations about, where you come from, and that helps in terms of what the perception is.
And then you get culture shock when you see when you see kids who are 11 years old, like kissing each other, because those are things that you start, you're like, okay, are these things that you thought that these are things that happen with adults, but now you start seeing those things.
But that's their culture.
Yeah,
I mean, we can say that the same thing about Kenyan men holding hands in the streets.
Yeah, true.
Let's be honest, obviously from a cultural perspective, right?
No, but when I say kissing, I don't mean kissing on the cheek, but let's talk about that
that's
day.
Another time.
Yeah, that's another
don't be
story,
shocked.
another day. Yeah, like people in that age. Yes, like there were very interesting things that we saw. I hope my mom is not listening, but
and she's the one who
signed the permission slip.
Yeah, and then
she paid.
Mwakisha says, I've personally worked hard with my colleagues. There are so many opportunities here. And then Apasle alikuwa anasema, I don't know if you spoke. I think we already read that question. And then quick question here that Esther Mulusa was asking. So state representatives are basically like Kenyan MCAs functionally. Is that an accurate statement?
You know, I've heard that time and time again, and this particular issue was debated on the Kenyan parliament, where one of the MPs really put it really well. If that's how you're going to reduce the mheshimiwa, imagine she's controlling a budget of a couple of trillion,
Yes.
in the state of Minnesota. So be careful.
That are bigger
how
than
you
some
reduce-
counties. It's bigger than some county budgets in
Actually,
Kenya.
it's even bigger than the country. If you look at the GDP of the country of Kenya compared to the state of Minnesota, my friend, you'll be shocked.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So going to that question, we are comparing oranges and apples.
Yeah.
You know, our structure here in the U.S.
Very
political
different.
is very different from Kenya. Like Kenya, you have members of parliament, and then you have obviously you have
Woman
the
reps.
president. Then you break it down all the way to women reps, then you have the MCAs, and then you have the ward sijui nini, and then you have the all of these things all the way to the area chiefs, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so we don't have all of those stages here, you know, and so it's really up to whoever.
So the
who wants to
governor is
determine.
basically controlling a budget that's way bigger than Kenya, probably even way bigger than the whole of East
Exactly.
Africa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
State is like a country, right?
Yeah, it's
Correct.
like,
So
yeah.
it is a country.
It's a
it's
country.
like state is its own individual
Individual
country.
countries.
Yeah.
But then
So
again,
governor is like
Yeah.
mngekuwa mnamwimbia Kasongo.
Yeah.
why you have to compare him to Kasongo?
Okay.
No, I mean just president.
Haya, sasa hapa Mwakisha anasema mkumbuke Idi ni Jumapili, kwa hivyo inakaribia. Inakaribia. Naona bandio
Fix your suit.
bandio tayari ashava kanzu, lakini sijui kama alifunga mwezi wa Ramadhani.
That story for another day.
Sijui kama
Muulize,
alifunga.
muulize.
Yuko tayari anajitayarisha Idi. Anajitayarisha Idi, lakini sijui kama
He's gained weight. He didn't lose.
yeah, you know, some of us have lost
Nimepoteza
weight.
dhambi, nimeongeza baraka.
Amen.
Okay. And then, I think you already mentioned this, what relationship you had with Ilhan Omar. I think this is a question that you already answered. And then Slay here is asking, I also want to ask if you have met Jasmine Crockett. I know she's a Texan and African-American, just a curious question.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Obviously, my jurisdiction is the state of Minnesota,
Okay.
and she is at the federal level. But I think the fact that, you know, her name has been brought up speaks volume in terms of what she's doing and how vocal she's being. And I think a lot of those Congress folks needs to be more vocal about what's going on in our country unapologetically. Because the other side is not apologizing
No,
for
they're
anything.
not.
If anything else, they are crossing boundaries on top of boundaries.
They are transgressing, you know, all kinds of
Left
boundaries
and
every
right,
day.
and nobody's holding them accountable. So to get somebody who's very vocal about it is refreshing, and I think she's a great example of how, you know, the rest of Congress, if you truly took an oath to protect this democracy, you need to speak up, and that's what she's doing.
Okay, all right,
But,
good.
but can't you invite them? I saw, was that Bernie Sanders and AOC, there was
AOC.
somewhere,
Yes.
you know.
Mhm.
So can you invite those to come? I mean, having a district that is what 33% Africans.
Yep.
You know, maybe that's something to think about.
So great question. We at the state of Minnesota are leading the country in terms of mobilizing around, you know, sounding the alarm. I think it's too late, you know, whatever the case might be, but at least we are doing something. We are waking up, right? So Governor Walz is going around the country, you know, holding town hall meetings, sounding the alarm. I personally don't know what his ambitions are, whether he wants to run again for president himself in 2028. I don't know. 2027, I'm not sure. But the goal right now for the Democratic Party, which is now being led by our state DFL chair, Ken Martin, he just won that seat. The goal is to bring the party together and mobilize around one common goal. And that is to start making noise around what is going on with this administration, all of the different really platform issues that are being infringed left and right with no accountability at all. We are looking at our national security and the signal gate. Now they have coined it, right? how do we sit here as a country? Can you imagine? Let me just ask, can you imagine if this particular situation happened during the Biden or Obama administration? People would have rolled
they would have
over
had
in
them
their
for dinner.
Exactly. So the state of Minnesota right now is actually going to continue holding town hall meetings to talk about, executive orders and what we need to do as they continue to rain down on the state. This summer, we are going to be intentional about going around the state, drumming up support for candidates. And again, let me remind everybody that this role is only 2 years. That's not a whole lot of time to do a whole lot, So again, going back to my biggest challenge as I stepped into this role is managing expectations. And so I will start campaigning in the next couple of months here already, right? And so I'm trusting and hoping that, as a party, we need to, come together and figure out what it is that we want.
Okay.
Start looking at, who we are fronting for 2027. And really not even the 4 years, not even the presidential elections, the general elections. We have midterm elections coming up.
Yes.
What are we doing?
Yes.
We need to prepare, start now. We don't want to wait until last minute. That's now when we're figuring out who wants to be a candidate for that role.
Yes.
No,
we need
that's
to
how
start,
we lose out.
Yeah, we need to start preparing early. And now on YouTube, the Trump supporters have shown up. This Trump support, they walikuwa wamepotea. Lakini I'm glad I'm seeing one here because I'm curious.
How do you know that they're Trump supporters?
Because
we
know them. They have revealed themselves.
They've revealed themselves.
Okay.
They've revealed themselves. Yeah.
So it's not a hashtag.
No. So I'm not mentioning names, but Resilient Karibu Sana to the OneMic show on YouTube. Resilient says Chuck put the interest of Americans first, not his party. The Democratic Party is polling so low, and the senator knows that. It's suicidal for Democrats to want to shut down the government. Okay? And then Resilient Father says, kudos to the new Congresswoman. You sound reasonable and not radicalized to play party politics. Your star is bright. That is Resilient. And then Resilient Father says, I wanted to run until I listened to the Congresswoman. I hope she is not radicalized by the left wing of the Democratic Party. She sounds like she is in the Bill Clinton Democratic Party. So I don't know what Congresswoman Resilient is referring to.
Expand.
Okay,
so I
he
think
means
representative.
Yes.
So you've already been promoted to a Congresswoman. Yeah.
And it's so interesting.
So Resilient wanted to run.
Atachukwa zote.
Resilient wanted to run. He was ready. He was ready, but
listen. Tell him to run because this seat is not my seat. It's the people's seat. So him stepping up or whoever who is willing to run, my friends, because I know that you cannot outwork me. If you outwork me, I will give you your flowers.
Yeah. So here's the other thing that Resilient is saying.
Mm-hmm.
She is not playing the race card either. As I keep saying, we live in a great country where you can become anything you want to be if you work hard and stay focused. She's an example.
Amechange tone. Amevaa ile kofia ya parental. Ile kofia ya parental ya ule mzazi alikuja na anaongea na watoto wake.
No, that was
It's
just
the
my
passion
natural
I
tone.
feel like I'm listening to the big broadcast show. Ile stories the 1960s.
Oh, by the way, I listened to the big broadcast on NPR. Yeah, very good. Now, Resilient Father says,
Okay.
She is not representing Americans who voted for her, and she is not representing Americans who voted for her, and not Kenyans who may want tenders. That's not how politics is done here. And then Resilient Father says, Omar.
I think it meant she's representing.
Okay.
I think that's what.
But Aliandika, she's not.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it was a Freudian slip.
Yes. Give Resilient.
Resilient Father says, Omar is from Kenya. Too tough. She was born in Somalia, but sought refuge in Kenya before migrating. And then
because we were going back and forth about, we were going back and forth about you being the first Kenyan, and he's saying, oh well, but we are claiming Omar. I was like, yeah, we can't really claim her just because she stayed in. She's of Somali origin.
No, Cameroon and I'm claiming
so
the Cameroonians.
Yeah, and then Upper Resilient, his father saying, please stop being selfish. She's African sister too. We should not just celebrate Kenya wins, but the entire continent. Okay.
We celebrate Omar. We
yeah.
celebrate
I
Omar.
will
and
celebrate
we
her.
celebrate
Yes.
her, and
Absolutely.
that's I was trying to let him know.
And
that.
then Resilient is saying no fighting today. And I think part of the reason why there's no fighting is because even MAGA guys are suffering. But anyway, that's a story for another day.
Maybe Resilient will give us a different look at it. Maybe.
Or maybe Kina Resilient have gotten bahashas and tenders from
No, they
for supporting
they see
Trump.
the big picture of making Vitu lean and mean and firing.
Yeah,
people.
and remember they were telling us that Trump is not a war guy, but he's just been dropping bombs in Yemen randomly. But anyway, that's a story for another day.
That's just what you people think. This is what had to happen.
Okay.
Piga simu.
Yeah, sawa. But Resilient,
Call in,
Resilient,
brother.
please call
Call
in.
in.
202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We are a very fair platform. We want to hear from you. Want to hear how you feel, like in these first few months of Trump. Watu wanafinywa kufinywa. I don't know whether yo kufinya imekufikia ama whether you guys are getting, like some special treatment. You showed a lot of support for Trump. So we just want to find out, I think we're now, is it 3 months into I'm not even counting this.
It's only been 3 months.
It feels like a whole year. It
3
feels
months
like
and
a
8
whole year.
days.
It feels like a whole year. And then Resilient hapa nasema the Democratic Party stopped listening to the common man. They have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And then Resilient Father says, I am not ashamed to say I cannot be a Democrat until they figure out their issues.
So there's hope.
I meant
There's
I
hope.
wanted.
There's hope.
He's saying I meant I wanted to run away from the show,
not
run
run for her seat.
for
Not
your
run
seat.
for your seat.
Oh, run away.
Run away, yeah. Because I
run
guess
away
he
from
was
the
coming
show.
and then he was,
Yeah, he
throwing
was
his head in,
coping.
then
Yeah.
he said, "Hey,
Yeah.
Kuna mambo."
Yeah.
So he stayed.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay. And then Resilient is confirming that I am not suffering. I don't want to get into it today because of the rep from Minnesota.
By the way, Resilient is from Minnesota.
Okay. All right.
If I
He
remember
needs to come
correctly.
visit me.
Resilient is from.
Okay.
So Resilient,
Come visit me.
Resilient, yes.
okay,
So
okay,
Resilient, please
okay.
inbox us. We're gonna make this connection.
We are going to, yes.
We're gonna make this connection. Maybe
You
we
said
can.
he needs to come visit you, or
He
he
needs to come visit
Yeah, I think
me.
Resilient is from Minnesota. If I
Yeah, it's
remember
from
correctly.
Minnesota.
If he's
Yeah.
from Minnesota,
Yes.
and I believe he's probably from the Twin Cities, if I'm just making an assumption, but
Okay.
if he is, I would love to meet with him.
Resilient, call in.
Yeah.
Tuko na mtu wako, call in. Kwani iko nini? What's that number again?
202-683-4570.
Iko inaonekana hapo.
Press *5 to speak. It's right on the screen, so please give us a call. Slay anasema in those 2 years, do your best. That is all that matters and representing your constituents.
He's saying he's from the West Coast.
Yeah. Oh, he's from the West Coast.
Resilient bana, maze
Okay.
unatuenjoy
I
bwana.
may change mind.
It's all right. It's all right.
And then hapa Amin Ali anasema, Madam Hulda, are you planning to advocate? Are you planning to advocate women rights as a state legislators 38 district in? Okay.
Of course.
What is women rights? What women rights are you advocating for right now? So that real quick, you can respond to that as we read the few comments before we get to the other part of the show.
Yeah, I mean, really quickly, obviously, as a woman, I truly believe that we deserve the right to our bodies. And so we are championing legislative pieces in the House in regards to those rights, making sure that women have equal rights as well. So the ERA bill is huge, and we are hoping to pass it this year.
What is the ERA
Equal
bill?
Rights Amendment. And that basically levels everything for women.
Was that supposed to be? There was a constitutional amendment, a U.S. constitutional amendment, but it failed.
Yes. So we're trying to push it at the state level.
At the state level.
Yes.
All right.
Correct.
Tuko na
Yeah. So-
tuko na simu sasa.
Okay, sasa before tuende kwa hiyo simu, quick comments here. Mwakisha alikuwa anasema sahi demo wako chini kama mavi ya asubuhi
Hey.
ukipiga kazi mzuri.
Surely.
And then hapa Brown Sugar anasema, so I think people are coming out and revealing how they feel.
You talked about people coming in last minute. This is the last hour of this show. Wake it up.
It always happens. It always happens. Skia what Brown Sugar is saying. Brown Sugar is saying huyu resilient ndio wale watu watasema egg prices are high because Biden killed all the chickens. And then hapa I can see Tuna Pacho inasema you guys forget that Republicans did not win by a wide majority. So umesema
Yes.
Bandio kuna mtu amempiga simu, there's
Yes,
a
kuna
call.
watu wawili wamepiga simu. Ngoja tuangalie nambari 4 za mwisho 08320. Hold on, let me see here.
0832.
0832.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling from and talk to us.
Welcome to the One Mic Show.
Hello there. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
We're good. Say it again. Say how
Well,
are you again.
This is resilient. You've been calling me a guy. You've been saying I'm from Minnesota.
I'm making
I'm not
assumptions.
from Minnesota.
Apana, wait.
No, let's give chance. Let
Resilient. Where are you
Resilient
calling
talk.
from?
Let Resilient talk.
Okay, Resilient
talk to us.
Karibu.
No, okay. Asante sana. You know, the last time you said you are Aji and resilient are the same people. Now you can hear my voice. I'm not Aji, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Where are you
All
calling
right.
from?
Where are you calling from? Apologies, Resilient.
I'm
West
calling
Coast.
you from the West Coast. I'm
West
calling you
Coast.
from the West Coast, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Okay.
West Coast,
Yeah.
Washington State, California, ama
He said-
She said she will leave it
She
at
said
that.
leave it
Okay.
at that.
All right.
Okay, fair
Karibu
enough.
Resilient.
Talk to us,
Resilient
Resilient.
apologies, my sister
Thank
apologies.
Yeah. Okay. Talk to us.
No, that's fine. Rep, and congratulations again. And I'm sure you're going to do the people of Minnesota proud. And I listened to you. Actually, I said I wanted to run, as I said, because sometimes I can't agree with the guys in the studio. And simply because you are Republican, you are told you are MAGA. First of all, I'm not even a Republican. I'm an independent candidate. I'm independent. I can vote either way, depending on what is happening. Okay. And yes, I was a Democrat. I voted for Obama. And so I don't think anybody should be castigated because you decide to vote differently. And as I said, I don't think I'm a victim in this country. And Rep, you can confirm that to me, that you are now a rep in Minnesota. That's huge. That's a big deal. And for me, I believe that it is attitude that will take us far. Where I live, I work in a big institution. I'm not going to mention the name of the place that I work in. I even know Kenyans used to ask me, how did you get to this place? How did you get a job in this institution? But I think at the end of the day, it is our attitude and working hard and not playing victims that will take us far. Of course, there are challenges, and we want things to get better. Whether you are Democrat, you are independent, or you are Republican, there are things that we would want to get better in the U.S. for immigrants. But it doesn't mean that every day I'll be singing that I'm a victim or this is happening to me. It is my attitude that has taken me who I am. And even you guys, I'm sure, where you are right now. So it just sometimes drives me crazy when I hear this race card every day.
Well,
okay.
thank you so much for sharing that. And it's truly America is defined by its democracy, and we are sitting here because the people of the U.S. spoke in terms of who they wanted. Even though, again, a majority, there was 22 million people who didn't vote, right? So at the end of the day, I am about. For me, I don't care where the good idea come from, as long as it's going to help, the people that we are serving. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, and there's a lot of castrating of folks who don't align with your party. And that's not how we're going to move forward. And sadly enough, that has divided our country. Just because you align yourself with a party, all of these stigmas and all of these assumptions about the party, you are literally facing that. And so I want to acknowledge your independence. And I also want to acknowledge, too, that, the party alignments for some of us, right, especially us minority candidates, it's the only way to get in there. And mind you, now I've always been a Democrat. I truly believe that the Democrat provides that inclusivity. But like I said earlier, we have lost our way, and we need to come to the table and get it together, and really figure out, who are we? And so I appreciate your perspective. And it sounds like you have well rehearsed in this space. And I mean, depending on the West Coast, we have a whole bunch of Kenyans in the West Coast, Africans in general, mobilize around, political power and what that looks like from your end. It sounds like you have really great ideas, and great ideas can come from anywhere. It doesn't align with party politics.
So there's one quick, sorry to intervene, but there's one quick point that I want to bring in that resilience mentioned, and maybe tell us, maybe what you think about it. Is minorities need to stop playing victim. There's no victimhood. It's just people just need to change their attitudes, because that's something that we hear a lot. I think when people are talking about issues to do with racism, and then of course DEI has been in the media so much. So with resilient is saying this country, and I believe she said it before on the show. This country has no racism. It's just an attitude issue that people have. Because she mentioned, like herself, she was able to get there through, pulling up her bootstraps and working hard. So if everybody just did that, then everybody and just change their attitude, everything would be successful, because there's no racism. It's just people calling victimhood.
I mean, we all have our lived experiences. And personally for me, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a Black church, a Southern Baptist church, where I learned, about Black history and the resilience of the Black population who came here as slaves, and their journey in this country and what they had to fight for and continue to fight for. So I do not want to downplay Resilience's experience. I am happy that has been her experience, but I'm going to speak from my own experience, because I can't talk about anybody else's experience. I have seen how institutions that are rooted in racism have impacted, people who look like me, who talk like me. I have worked in, corporate America long enough to experience that, where I am being judged. It didn't matter that I had 3 degrees, I had this many years of experience, and still can't break that glass ceiling.
Are you sure that wasn't victimhood? Because I'm not the politician here. I'm just translating what now is being said down here, because that's what Resilient is calling victimhood.
I mean, for me, victimhood is sitting here and allowing yourself to get caught up in these systems that were never meant for us, right? If I allow myself to get caught up in that and not fight for what I deserve, what is the value that I bring to the table. So for me, it has always been this battle of justifying myself, where my white counterpart didn't have to. For example, let me give you a very clear example. Again, this is for me. When I always door knocked, there's a couple of times the police were called on me because, automatically a Black person walking in affluent communities, they are being questioned in regards to what are they don't belong here, So we have to acknowledge that, racism still exists and is live and well in this country, but that doesn't mean that you have to become a victim of it. It's a matter of how do you go about addressing that in a manner that continues to build yourself up, continues to allow you to still thrive in this country where, I'm sitting here as, a member of, the House of Representatives of Minnesota, where, if I didn't, fight for that. What I'm trying to say is that, yes, racism exists, but at the same time, that shouldn't be used as an excuse to not achieve what it is that you want to achieve in this country, because you can.
So Resilient. Yeah, so before we go to the other caller, Resilient, I'm going to give Resilient the last word, but Resilient, can you also acknowledge the same way that Huldah has acknowledged your experience? You've never experienced racism. You've just pulled your bootstraps up and everything has worked for you. But can you also acknowledge Huldah's experience, where she was in some spaces where she saw racism and she experienced racism and it was not victimhood? Resilient, last word.
I do, and I respect, what she has said. And I'm not just saying that everything has just been very smooth for me either. And I'm just going to say briefly here that when I got employed in this institution, I was the only Black person for a long time in my department. But that did not at any one time make me feel, because it's just me, a Black person from Kenya, or there's not even an African American in this department for this long, then I had to feel like, I was the black sheep of that department, or I had to feel like I was a victim. I agree, Rep, that there are so many things that need to change, and we can change them positively. But what sometimes I don't agree with, and I know you need to get to the other caller, is you hear some people who have gone to prestigious institutions in this country, who have held high positions in this country, yet they just want to say that minorities are victims, they cannot rise, instead of trying to encourage people that it is your attitude, like what the Rep is saying. Look at where she is right now. I am sure it is her attitude that has gotten her there. If she just sat down and said, I'm a Black person from Kenya, I don't think I'm going to get this seat, then she could not have gotten it. She couldn't even have thought of working hard for it, but she did, and she made it. So this is what I'm saying. I agree there is racism and there are some things that need to change, but it is our attitude that takes us far. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, thank you so much, Resilient, and we do appreciate you acknowledging that that there is racism, and this is what we're talking about. When we talk to each other, it will be easier for us to get along. But when we all stick to our corners, we are going to end up in the situation when Resilient, asante sana. We have another caller. Quickly before we go to the other caller, there's a very interesting question here. Asante sana, Resilient. Thank you. There's some interesting questions coming here about boys using girls' facilities, but we're going to be talking about that slightly later. I think we're going to first pick up the caller, and then we're going to go to some of the questions that are coming up here.
All right, 0073.
Welcome to the OneMic show.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling from, and then talk to us.
Hey guys, this is Asheke calling from Juba, South Sudan.
She could even be in the cell with that guy.
Okay. From Juba.
So yes. So first of all, congratulations, Huldah, for that achievement. I last spoke to you when you were on the show and you were still campaigning, so I'm very, very happy and proud of your achievement. And it's such a befitting conclusion to Women's History Month and the theme this year, which is Accelerate Action. And you're espousing those ideas, you're challenging us and inspiring us, to serve in the communities that we live. But I have a question. You mentioned that prior to your public service, you worked in corporate America. Can you share how your experience and skills in corporate America benefited you as you successfully ran for your current role?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think for me, each lived experience has played into, my running for political office, specifically for corporate America. It allowed me to, learn how to navigate in those spaces, learn how to deal with certain characters within those spaces. And really, it gave me a good chance of really experiencing the realities a lot of people who look like me go through. And because when you step into the political side of things, those challenges are magnified because now you're a public figure where anybody and everybody can feels like they have the right to come at you anyhow, anyway, with no apologies. At least in corporate America, there's ways you can combat that, attitude and those behaviors. So it allowed me to really just be prepared to deal with, this idea of, the need to always prove myself. That hasn't gone anywhere. It doesn't matter how qualified I am or, what I bring to the table. I still have to sit here and really, work twice as hard. And so that has carried over to this role where I'm not sitting here trying to fit in, but also I'm here now, the next level, right? Being proud to be who I am, to step into my power and my own truth and own it, and step in with confidence, knowing that I do bring value to the table, and it's a value that is carried by the voices of a big population who have felt unrepresented in those places of power and in the decision making tables.
Okay, Washeke, last word.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's it. So I have one more question. I know you've mentioned one of your biggest challenges is managing expectations, and as Ali has said, a lot of citizens don't know, the workings, what it takes for, a bill to become law. So how are you managing expectations with your constituents? Because they have a lot. They voted for you. They have expectations. And, we don't understand how the halls of power work. So how are you managing their expectations? Because, as you said, you're going to be in your role for 2 years, and hopefully you'll be seeking re-election or seeking elections for a higher office. So how are you managing that?
I mean, when I talk about expectations, from this perspective, is expectations of our community, what they think this role is. I personally do not, I'm not worried about the expectations of my constituency, because I have been on the ground, campaigning, door knocking, talking to my constituency, and trying my level best to understand exactly what it is that they require of me. And those are the things that I'm prioritizing right now. I want to make sure that I'm talking to as many people as I can, and I continue to do that. As we are going through this legislative session, it's about being open and providing communication to my constituency that brings them information about what it is that we're doing at the Capitol. Because a lot of times I realize that as elected officials, we don't do a good job of coming back to our constituency and saying, hey, this is what's happening at the Capitol. This is how it impacts you. And last but definitely the most important, this is how you can participate. And I think that is something that I continue to work on, and I will continue to do, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who elected me. And so in this context, when I talk about expectations, is expectations from, the Kenyan community that expects me to, act a certain way or expect that I can do certain things where, I'm not able to, just because of my role and the jurisdiction of my role.
Okay, asante sana Hulda, and thank you so much, Washeke. Are you still in Juba? In a cave in Juba, Sudan, with Riek Machar or with Salva Kiir Mayardit?
Machar ana sneeze up.
Was that Machar sneezing?
Huyo ni Machara basi, niko huku kwa nini? Lazima to find a solution. We can't have our neighbor's house is burning because the fire is going to spread to our house.
Okay. Now,
so I'm here doing my duty.
Na sasa Washeke, uliingia kwa delegation ya Baba, because I think Baba came in at the same time that you said. Did you go in the same delegation? Ama, how did you end up there?
Well, usitake kujua. Just know I'm there. You don't need to know how I got there. Just
unajua huyu Washeke uweze mpa bunduki.
Okay.
Huyu ukimpa bunduki anaweza fyetua kila mtu.
Basi msalimie Machar, mwambie mpatie NyQuil, na naona ni kama ako na homa. Haya, sawa.
Thank you,
all right.
Washeke.
Thank you so much, Washeke. Thank you so much. And you see, this is a good thing I like about the OneMic show, in that we get calls from people from any side of the political divide, and we are open, and we allow them. And I think the idea of letting them, having an open forum to allow them to speak, because there's a lot of forums where they will immediately block you if they feel like you're not aligning. We like people who have contrary opinions to ours. Like Upper Resilient is saying, Resilient is still on fire. She's saying, I did not get a chance to address the issue about the eggs. We all know what the Biden administration did. And I think...
but I think this is one thing that, and I'm not sure if there's anything that is intimidating from this side of the show, but getting the call from Resilient, that was, to me, I don't want to say it's good. To me, it was like a blessing,
Yes, it is.
And I need more of that. I mean, this is why we're here, right? Like I say, to educate, entertain, and engage.
Yes.
And we can't be here, like what Barry someone say, how sweet can the wine be if you're not sharing with someone, right? So having all this knowledge, and sometimes the best thing about being in the media, and I've been in the radio for 25 years right now, is that you learn as you think, as you share information, or as you think you teach. That's when you learn. And people like Resilient, those are the people that we need. Kwa Kiswahili wanasema ili ufanikiwe unahitaji marafiki, ili ufanikiwe zaidi unahitaji wale wanaojifikiri ni maadui. So those are the people that will bring things together, will build. And I will encourage Resilient na mtu yoyote yule ambaye anaona vitu from the other side. That's what we need. Kama alivyosema, kama ujui, Washington Post unasema, if you don't get it, you don't get it.
You don't get it.
And we need to get it. And the only way to do it is to hear from the other side, or hear from people who think or see things in a different way. And, like I always say, the way you see the problem is the problem. It's just, sometimes it's just the way you see it. And we need somebody else to give us that another perspective so you can see things better.
Yes.
So I'm applauding her, and I just say, just bring some more every day. Kama kuna siku, I'm the producer. Kama unataka tuongelee how Biden's administration, screw things up to where we are right now. I'll
To
be more than
increase the
happy.
price of eggs.
Right. If there's another GOP member of parliament, or GOP rep, or senator that you think anaweza kaja hapa akaelezea vizuri, just bring it.
Yeah, but Bandio, to add on what you've said, in as much as yes, it's important for us to talk from both sides of the political divide, I think it's important also for people to have fidelity to truth, because I think that's something that's suffering at all levels.
But then what is truth?
To facts that can be agreed upon. For example, let's say I don't know what can be seen, like this is an elephant. I'm talking about basic facts, because unajua pale tumefika sasa whereby mtu atasema no, that is not an elephant, it's a gazelle. And then now the argument now becomes, is that a gazelle or is it an elephant? So I think and it's very important, like in the
I don't have a problem
Yeah.
with that, as long as that person can tell me why
Yes.
they believe that's a gazelle. Okay? Because that's the thing.
So-
Tell me why you believe this is a gazelle.
So I think, Bandio, I think there has to be limits.
Well-
And I'm being very honest, because when we're getting to a point where we can all see it's an elephant, but we are debating why it's a gazelle, there's other bigger things that we're missing. There's a certain limit, and that's why, like for example, Resilience spoke very well. A lot of like people who voted for Trump, we've hosted them as guests. Some of them did not want us to reveal that they were Trump supporters, and now don't start guessing who that guest was. But they've spoken very well. But sometimes when you see some of the conversations, there's some that cross the limits, whereby we are debating, did Biden win the 2020 election? And when we've had those conversations before, there's some conversations I think that take us away from core issues, and they get people distracted. So I think it's important when we come to these engagements, we have some basic rules, like, do we agree this is an elephant? We can see it's a 5,000-pound animal. Yes, we agree it's an elephant. Maybe we can argue, is it an Asian elephant or is it an African elephant? That's a fair argument that we can debate. But the moment when we start allowing, like any kind of debate, is this bottle yellow? Then that becomes a debate. Bandio, I think that is a problem, and I think that's a problem that society is experiencing.
I think I'm going to go into the how you approach that conversation.
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether the conversation is, whether you all talk about this is an elephant, you can talk for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours.
Yes.
Or you can do that for 3 minutes, right? Even if you agree this is an elephant, depends on how you, not only you lead, but how you're going to end that conversation, right? We can never, even if we agree on something, we cannot have an ending conversation, right?
And then ndio pia problem nyingine iko, and I think you've also seen it, and you're trying to be very diplomatic about this on issues that are verifiable, like you can quickly go and check. Unajua kuna vitu ambavyo tumeamini for a long time, but just because I believe something for a long time doesn't mean it's true. But this is now verifiable. Nowadays, there's a lot of tools for verification. Like, for example, where was the World Cup hosted in 1994?
Yes.
That's a very basic, verifiable thing. And I'm going to this very basic information because when you look at the content of some of the debates,
But if somebody comes to you and say it was hosted in South Africa, right?
Yeah.
And you know that's not true, right? And the question is, would you say, you know what, you don't know what you're talking about, go away? Or you'll be like, okay, give me some verification.
Yes.
And maybe, you know, let me see this way. Kwenye mass communication, kuna vitu vinne. Kuna kuongea ukweli kamili, kuna kuongea nusu ukweli, kuna kutokuongea ukweli ila haudanganyi, na kuna kuongea uongo. So inawezekana
kuna
ukweli anaojua sio ukweli, na ndio anaosimamia. Kwa anaweza akaja akasema here's the article, lakini article, I mean, jana imetoka article ya who's that coach ambao anasema ame drop 10 million from Elon Musk, and somebody brought to me leo kazini, akaja akasema look, this woman is a champion, na anaamini katika hilo, but it's not true, but that's the truth anayoelewa. So when you get to that point, mtu anavyokuambia kwamba that's a gazelle, not an elephant, na anaweza kuambia okay, tell me why do you believe this is, you might end up finding out kwamba definition alionayo is not the right one. And all you need to do is just to drop the line, okay, here are the facts, this is the elephant and this, and you end that conversation. But there's a big chance ukawa umemsaidia huyo mtu instead of just kuona kwamba umempuza.
Yes, and I think we need to have a full episode about this because it's an issue that's affecting our society. That was a sidebar, and that's what happens in the OneMic show. Yes, and I remind the listeners, 202-683-4570, muda unazidi kuyoyoma, kipindi ni chalala salama. If you don't call now, utabaki kusimuliwa. But Omosh, you had something you wanted to say.
I was just going to ask if, you know, how the representative is going to help us with the price of eggs.
My friend.
Where Sasa, we discussing.
This is a problem, It's a problem, It's a problem, It's not just about elephants.
I bought a dozen eggs the other day. Actually, it was my husband. He came home and brought a dozen eggs that costed. He told me, "You need to do something about this. This eggs just costed us $12."
Biden killed all the chickens.
Apparently, Biden killed all the chickens.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
We need to. I think the solution is to make sure that we are raising more chickens.
And not relying on one company, and then
there you go.
If they get bad,
I think here the main thing is how we got here. You know, if you ask yourself, there's something that we missed. I mean, if the issue is now some people are just saying, you know, because Trump this and this and this and this, right? For whatever reason, Trump got elected. There was something that was missed there, where there was Democrats connection, or was Democrats messaging or canvassing. Something was missed.
Something was
from
amiss.
him to get where he is right now, right? So I'm one of those. Hata mtu akinipiga coffee, I'll ask myself, was I too close? Because I'm ningekuwa 2 miles away, no matter what I say, no matter what I do, asingeweza kufanya nini. So we need to sit down and ask ourselves, why do we have people like this? Why people think differently? And sometimes, you know, it could be a lesson for the next election, or, you know, something. But hiyo egg price nimeangalia juzi. Mi unajua I get not cage free, there's another
organic,
not even organic, there's
farm raised,
so there's
free
range.
Farm
raised, the free range. Go try that.
That's the one that's
go try that.
Ndio kukua kienyeji.
It's not even organic. Hiyo sasa hivi ni kimbiza 20.
Yes.
Kimbiza 20. Okay, aya sawa. So very, very interesting comments coming in here, and like I said, ni muda unayoyoma, kipindi ni chalala salama. Wairimo says the race situation, especially on the West Coast, can be very nuanced. All I can say to my country people is self-awareness will serve you well. Stay aware. And then Marimo Father says, Huldah, you represent us well. Kudos to your parents. They raised a wonderful person. And then OneMic, who, you know, is absent.
Are you sure that's him?
Well, it says OneMic. It could be Kizito Wazabanga.
Yes.
Or it could be Kukungwendu Wazabanga.
Yes.
Let me see. OneMic says Ashley Babbitt being a hero for being a domestic terrorist. Sasa fafanua hapo OneMic. Yani hata kama you're working from home without
I think
permission.
that's a chat GPT version of OneMic.
Haya, sasa hapa Wairimu anasema karibu Eid Mubarak to all. Asante sana Wairimu. Sijui kama ulifunga Wairimu ama unangojea tu Eid.
No, Wairimu inaonekana alifunga. Inaonekana
wengine walifunga dhambi.
Okay, yeah. Bandio hapa shava kanzu tayari. Anangoja tu kofia, yeye yuko tayari kula pilau ya Eid. Na tujui kama alifunga. Hakuonekana akifunga. Sijui kama alifunga. I can't verify kama alifunga.
Hiyo ni between mimi na Mungu wangu.
Okay, haya sawa hapo. And then hapa Pablo anakuja
this
na violence.
This one over here, he should not.
Pablo anasema please Bandio akuwe permanent fixture kwa show. True, different perspective and rich debates. OneMic can take the guest seat once in a while. Will all of a similar opinion say aye? The eyes have it. So Pablo hapa amefanya, he's become a speaker and he's already
Speaker of the house.
He's already counted and he's already decided that eyes have it. Unajua parliament ya Kenya, in fact that system of eyes, I don't know whether in like Congress here I know they use it in Congress. I don't know in state legislatures they use it, but you see in Kenya
you say aye.
So there's some votes where it's not clear who's won, but the speaker's already been told which side they want to win. So the speaker is basing it on what he feels was the louder. Not actual numbers. And they liked that kind of voting because it was sometimes used for very critical votes where they knew they do not have the numbers. And then hapa uno nasema Dems want to fall in love, Republicans fall in line. Okay. And then Resilient anasema how can people fast when Kasongo is making 1 million chapatis back in Kenya? Haya, sawa. Kasongo has gotten to the building. But before we wrap up, there's something I did not want us to forget. And that is the issue of consulate services. I know you've been having some conversations for Kenyans. You've been having some conversations with some government officials in Kenya. Tell us a bit about that, because that has been a thorn in the issue for many Kenyans here in the US in terms of maybe inefficiency or lack of clarity, distance, so many things.
Applications, registration.
Yeah, so talk to us about that on the conversations you've been having and maybe, what changes we might expect to see.
Yeah, that is an issue that is very live and well. Since coming to this country, that has been something that, we have been fighting for as Kenyan Americans or diasporans in general, from the right to vote, right? Because the Constitution, the 2010, right? Constitution, basically, allowed all the Kenyans, no matter where they are in the world, to vote. And so I got involved, probably like 10 plus years ago in regards to, championing those issues around, the right to vote with Wakili Henry Ongeri in Minnesota and Mr. Choti and the folks here in Maryland as well, around that idea.
KCA.
Yes. Choti, Choti ni mtu wa Montgomery County.
Okay.
And he needs to actually, by the way, run. That's a side comment. And so when we talk about, the services that we need, that's on top of my list of things that I personally would like to see where Kenyan in diaspora are able to vote and participate civically. And then secondly, when we talk about consulate services, again, that is a issue that we have been, you guys have talked about this time. Like, I don't know how many shows you guys have held in regards to consulate services, and those conversations have been had all the way to the president. That's one of the things that I mentioned when I went to Kenya, is that, obviously I had just a couple of minutes with the president, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to make sure that he understood, and he referred me to.
So did you use your Kisii accent? Just asking for a friend.
I used my proper English accent because I wanted to make sure he understood, because he doesn't come
English
from
of the nose. English of the nose.
Of the nose.
Yeah, Maju.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maju. In all seriousness, so I've been having conversations with CS and PS Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs.
That's Rosalind Njogu.
Rosalind, Madam Honorable Rosalind Njogu. She was actually here in 2023 when we had the state visit from the president here. And
that was 2024.
2024, you're right.
That was last year. That was right
Yeah.
before the Gen Z revolution.
That was last. You're right. Absolutely.
That was the
right
peak.
Before.
Yeah,
you're
that
right.
was the peak
It was,
of.
it was in May.
Yes.
It feels like
Yes.
it's been 2 years. Wow.
That's when people who bought
There's
Kitenges,
so much stuff that has happened
people who
since
bought
that
Since
Kitenges,
that-
people who bought
yes.
Kitenges and went to White House, they had to delete all the pictures.
Yes.
They had to delete all the pictures.
Why?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the Gen Zs demanded it.
Oh,
the Gen Zs decided.
The Gen Zs do not
Yes.
play. So going back to the Consulate, that is a conversation that has been had for many years. And I am fortunate enough to be in a space where I can have honest conversations with our Ambassador Kirich here in DC. I've met with him a couple of times. He's come to Minnesota, obviously, and we've met about what would that look like if we cannot get consulates in different geographical areas where Kenyans are concentrated. We're talking about New Jersey, we're talking about Texas, we're talking about Minnesota, and all these other regions. Then what's the low-hanging fruit? Because putting a consulate somewhere, it requires a lot of resources, a lot of manpower. Right now in our DC office, I mean, they have a lot of work to do in terms of the need, right? And so the goal right now is to look at the low-hanging fruit is mobile consulates. And the last conversation I had was actually a couple of weeks ago with the ambassador. And the goal is to, they will work on an agenda, not an agenda, but a schedule. A schedule of where, because if they're going to do mobile consulates, they don't have extra staff where they can just deploy and then still keep the embassy open, going. And so they have to shut down the embassy and then go to these different states. So that's their goal this year. And they're working on the
They
logistics
should ask
of that.
us of how they can do that. I can give them a quick suggestion.
Oh, right.
A very, very quick suggestion. Some of those people need to roll up their sleeves and work in the consulate while these other guys on the field.
When you say some of those people, who are some of those people?
There's other people
So-
who are there who are staff.
So I'll tell you something.
As guys, we know. But
So
you
the
guys are
staff we
here
know.
closer that I.
no, we've
yeah.
Not
seen
only
their
closer,
we've seen
Yeah.
their operations.
Not only
That's why
closer,
we say that.
but we have inside
yeah,
information.
they can deploy those guys to do because
so
a
I
lot of
want
what they
you-
do is administrative.
So I'd like you
Yeah.
to go tell PS Rosalind Njogu something, which I don't know whether she knows, because we talked about you don't know what you don't know. So there was two models that we've seen over the years. There was the model where occasionally they would announce that we are coming to a certain state, we're coming to Ohio, or we are coming to Minnesota, and people and staff from the embassy who have experience in doing this would go and do it. Now, model 2 that was introduced when the Kenya Kwanza government came in was you grab the process from here and you take it back to Nairobi. So the registrations were being controlled from Nairobi. People who are registering for to come and apply for passports. Now, what Nairobi did not have information about, or what they did not know, they did not have experience in doing this. So they registered many people, and then they brought people from Nairobi, which costs more, who have no training in doing this, to do this. So what was happening with that Nairobi version is that people were staying up until 2 a.m. And they've not been served. In one case, this was being done during the month of Ramadan, and people were calling me. I don't work for the embassy, but a lot of people have my number. They were calling me, Ali, vipi tumefunga, wewe umetuambia tuje tujiandikishe hapa to apply passport na nini, wanatuweka mpaka saa 8 usiku, hatujakula, hatujafanya nini. So now you need to tell the PS that the original process worked, where because it was really working well.
Yeah.
They just need to give funding to the team here to be able to do it. that thing of picking, you know, like people from Nairobi, you know, like best friends and other people who are working in the ministry to come and do it, it was very inefficient. And then the other problem is that those people who are coming from Nairobi, because, you know, we've stayed in the US for long, also did not necessarily have the right temperament and skill to deal with people
Quick
in
wits
the,
of
in
being
the diaspora.
mobile and dealing with people in the
Yes.
diaspora. They
So
work the same way as when they're working
Yes.
in Kenya. Slow
Yeah.
motion.
Yes, so I, so
That's-
so
that's
so so,
frustrating.
so I think, you know, like that's something that you need to point out to her. They do not need to bring people from Nairobi. This thing was being done before, and it was being
Yeah.
done very efficiently by staff that was working here, and they know their capacity. They know how many applications they can process, so they know when to stop. They know how many times they need to go. It is cheaper to have them go multiple times than get people from Nairobi coming. So I think that's a very important message that you need to get to her.
I agree 100%. I will definitely see what I can do to do that. And last thing, I know that when I was talking to the ambassador and PS Njogu, one of the things that we continue having a conversation around, and obviously this is on them, like I have nothing to do with that, is what about the idea of honorary consulates? I have done a lot of research into that. And that right there, there's a lot of benefits, right? It's it's basically a private entity, somebody who's going to come in, run a consulate, but it's honorary and it's governed by the embassy, but given permission by the Secretary of State. And this people is the one who have to get the building, has to get the staff, has to run all of that in support of. So they're saving the government money and they're providing services. So again, I know that we're running out of time. So that's another conversation piece that we
So
continue
is
to have.
is it a random Kenyan? You know, like
It can
who's-
be a Kenyan.
Oh,
It has to be
it
a
has to be an
citizen.
American.
It has to be a citizen of another. Basically,
are you
not
a
a
citizen?
Kenyan. Basically, a Kenyan American can do, as
Oh,
long as
Kenyan
you
American
have a
can do it.
passport of a different country and not.
But
country of Kenya.
are they financing it out of pocket?
They
or-
have to finance it out of pocket and run it out of
All
pocket.
right.
Okay.
It's a business. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Offer. Kuna mtu kwenye simu.
So what to say? I
Are
told
you, are you
know,
serious?
like-
It's,
Are you
we have
serious?
to. It's
This-
ill.
This
okay,
person.
let's give them 1 minute.
Okay.
Let's give them 1 minute.
30,
Yeah.
38 seconds.
Yeah, let's give them 38 seconds.
All right. 2151. Hello.
Tell us your name and where you're calling from and why you're calling this late.
Welcome to the OneMic show.
Oh, is that 2151?
Yes, 2151.
Yes. Tell us your name and where you're calling from and why you're calling this late.
Eric. So mine is a quick suggestion and request. If a representative can advocate for us to get away to get involved in the voting in Kenya. You know, I know she has the ears of the government, but I know diaspora has not really had a serious chance to participate in the Kenyan elections. So I think it would be very helpful if we can get someone to push for that, someone who has the ear of the government. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
Ali,
Thank you
can
so
you
much,
answer
Eric.
that?
Yeah. So Kenya has actually participated in Kenyans in diaspora in the US have participated in elections, and I think, you know, like when you see, you know, like people up to today saying that did not happen, it means that there was no proper reach out.
Communication.
There was no proper
They didn't know it was
communication.
happening. They were never registered.
Yes.
And Ali, by the way, you are what is it called? You are election.
No, I was an agent.
observer. You are an agent, correct?
Yeah, I was an agent.
And there was a registration that was done at the Kenyan embassy.
Yes.
Not only the Kenyan embassy in DC, it was done
in LA and in New York. Yeah.
And there was a total of only 700 people who were registered.
There were very few people who got registered in the US. I think it was it 700 and something?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what.
And
we
then
discussed,
only
yeah.
300
Yeah.
voted, or 200 and some change.
It was very disappointing. The 200 and something was in the DC, I think in the DC polling station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was very disappointing numbers. There is, like a reason behind it in that the announcement was made very last minute. But I was very disappointed. I expected a bit more, especially the people
to be
who
honest,
are local.
my brother, let's be honest. Yes, for the local folks,
Yes,
that's on y'all,
that
right?
was
That's on you guys.
New York,
But the rest of
LA,
us who
Correct.
have to come all the way to
You
DC or
agree.
go
You are very
from
right.
the
We
Midwest,
agree.
we have kids, we have
We
all
agree.
of this.
That's
so
right there.
it's
It's
not
a poll
about
tax.
we
That's a
have
poll
that
tax.
right.
Yeah.
We have that right. But it's accessibility. That's the question we need to talk about.
That's a poll tax, in my opinion. Making people have to pay for a hotel and a flight. That's a poll tax. Quickly, before you go,
yes.
where does Huldah go from here?
That's a good question,
Governor.
and I
Governor.
know. Hey, Mosh, take it slow. Honestly, right now I'm focused on serving my constituency. That is the goal. Again, this is just 2 years. I have a lot to learn. And so right now I'm just focused to finishing up this legislative session. Once that's done, and then we'll see what opens up. If the people who elected me see that I did a good job, and if they elect me again, then we'll go from there. After a couple of terms, we'll see what doors open. Because at the end of the day, I truly believe in God's will for my life. And whatever that will is, I am ready to step into it with confidence. And whatever opportunity that comes up, I will definitely make sure I evaluate every opportunity to make sure that they make sense for me and where I want to go. So for right now, I'm just focused on my constituency and the people of the state of Minnesota. That's it.
Okay. So, Huldah Mesema, she's focused. Like
Fully
DJ Fully.
focus.
Yeah. Like Babu and Fully. Yeah?
Wewe.
Yeah.
Umeanza. Umeanza.
No, I'm just
Wewe,
saying.
umeanza.
I'm just saying. But Huldah, asante sana. This was a very short notice show, but we were able to pack in so many things, so many benefits.
And
There
pull
will
it
still
together.
be. Yes, there will still be another one. And then you said that you're gonna be traveling somewhere for some training. I think that was a conversation that we're having.
Yes,
Briefly
really
talk
quick.
about that.
Yes. So what I want to do is I want to go to places where our people are concentrated and talk about what does it look like to participate civically in however form you find yourself in, whether you want to be a candidate, whether you want to support campaigns, whether you just want to mobilize your community around engaging in local politics. Because I believe that our community, we lack knowledge of how this process works. And so I'll be going around the country talking to our people about how do we mobilize around engagement, civic engagement, and mobilizing, because that's what's going to move the needle in this country. When you come together as a collective and you mobilize around a topic that is important to you, that's how you're going to make sure that you catch the eye of those people at the table who are making decisions about you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Asante sana Huldah. Bandio, mababu na wahenga wanasemaje?
Wanasema kila kilicho na mwanzo hakikosi kuwa na mwisho, na meli imetia nanga. Najua nafikiri amedrop.
And I hope hakuna caller mwingine because our callers kuna vile
tumekwisha end call.
No, I think we just need to block them at 11.
Kuna vile injury time ikifika ndo hao mechi mzima wamekuwa wakizembea, lakini injury time ndo anasema ndo mambo iko hivyo sasa.
All right, so naona Micah amedrop hapo. Omosh.
Yes, asante sana. Thanks to all our listeners, to our guests, our surprise guest who surprised all of us, probably except Ali. Thank you for gracing us with your presence, giving us your time. And I know you've had a packed schedule being here, and you've made time to actually come and talk to us and for people to get to see you. We appreciate it that you even came back after being elected into office and at least even getting to meet us physically. That's really awesome. Asante. Thank you very much. We've heard you, we've listened to you, and I think it looks like we are probably going to need to be doing once a quarter Huldah check-in.
Yes.
Where are you now? Is
Yeah.
your temperature gauge still at 22?
Am I still alive?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or are you in a situation where now you can facilitate the brown envelopes for benchmarking?
No more
Hi.
asking of envelopes. you see, there's a way that this thing can be asked off
okay.
camera.
Okay. Sawa.
Wewe unaongea mingi.
Okay.
Yeah. So but seriously, thank you very much for coming, and you continue to do a good job. You're repping us, and I don't know if it's the Kenyan standard from Minnesota. Ju Ilhan started, even though we claim her, we don't claim her. Na wewe uko hapo, and it looks like we may get some other people from there. But at least this is showing folks that they can do this.
Yes.
We can do this, and we always say that your politics is local. Go for those offices, because that's how you make change for policies, taxes, what you'll pay for taxes for your home, insurance rates, all those things that you think you're suffering within your neighborhood. You can make a change if you actually get into elected office, and you can bring up policies that will affect and help you and your children moving on forward. So with that said, see you guys next week. I think weather in this area is supposed to be Timam kesho.
It's supposed to be Timam.
Yeah.
Sunday ndo hatuko sure. Sunday unajua ni Eid. It might be raining, like late in the afternoon, but time ya swala pale asubuhi tuko sure. Najua sijui kama bandio ataonekana swala ama ataonekana tu time pilau ikiwa imeiva, ikiwa tayari tu.
Ali, if you say in your hall, that's when us guys were there.
Kwani tunaswalia wapi? Sikia mtu anaswalia sehemu tofauti.
So that's your story. Okay.
Mimi nitaonekana sehemu ya swala ila sio ulipo.
Okay. Sawa. Before you give us the last word, Huldah, there's EVE Karanja. Thank you so much for tuning in, EVE. She says, well said. Thank you, Representative Hiltsley, for sharing your journey and insights. Your leadership is truly inspiring, especially as someone breaking barriers. Cheers. Give us your last word.
Thank you so much. I want to take this opportunity in this moment to acknowledge OneMic show for the great work that you guys are doing. Like I said, you guys are my mini celebrities, whether you like it or not. You guys are out here just impacting people's lives, whether you know it or not. And bringing topics that, are not being talked about in our circles. And so I want to applaud you. And then also I want to extend a warm thanks to all of the listeners, for folks who tuned in. Please, if you haven't subscribed to their channels, please do so. This is where you can get legit information about what it's really impacting our community. And like my brother talked about, if you have a different opinion, this is a safe space you can come in and bring that different opinion. Because if we don't chanua each other, who will, right? And that means we have to be able to allow folks who have a different opinion from us. Just because they're Kenyans doesn't mean that they, have the same opinion as us. So I'm so glad that this platform allows us to do that. And I welcome that, because that's the only way we're going to move forward in a healthy manner that appreciates us. As long as we respect one another, that is the key piece of it. Because I see a lot of the TikTok stuff that happens and we don't get anywhere. We're not going to touch that. But all in all, my brothers, I appreciate you. I appreciate that you have allowed me to come here and express, my thoughts. And again, it is an honor to have a platform like this where I can come in. This is like therapy for me, because I'm out here fighting battles that a lot of people might not know about. And sometimes when you're up there, it can sometimes get lonely up there. And so to be able to come in a space where I feel like I'm at home, I feel like, I can just come in and be myself. It is a good break from, my day-to-day out there being a legislator. So I thank you, and I look forward to having this quarterly catching up because our people need to really wake up and know what's going on in this country. And how we can participate and fight for this democracy that we have come to call home, and where most of us will call home in the next generation. So thank you, asanteni sana, everybody. I appreciate y'all, and I am here to say that I am so honored to be in this place to represent not only the district of 38A, the people of Minnesota, but also Kenyans, whatever they are. I get empowered when I hear a message from, Australia saying, I have been following your story. You have inspired me to do this. To me, if I can change one person's life to think differently, to act differently, to go out and be bold in whatever it is that God has called you to, that right there, I can say that I've done my work, and I can, mission accomplished. So thank you so much for having me.
All right, asante sana. Actually, the one thing I forgot to tell you is that top that you have, amazing. You know, like.
Why are you telling my?
Yes. Well, hey. Pole bana. I read ahead of the teacher.
God.
I read ahead
You know,
of the
the whole
teacher.
time
Pole
he's
sana.
been doing this to, you know,
I
his
was just-
suits.
I was like-
he's been ninning, eh?
Yeah, I was like,
He's been hinting, eh?
I read ahead of the teacher.
It's okay. You can tell us who the person is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Shout out to my girl, Akinya in Kenya. To be honest, she's the one who actually dressed me the whole entire 8 days that I was there.
What's her name?
Akinya Adondo.
Akenya Adondo.
Yes.
Akenya Adondo, don't worry, we shall send you an invoice. Not to worry.
Okay.
Not
So
to
you're
worry.
saying she dressed you for 8 days?
Yes.
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 Majority of the key pieces that I had on,
Uh-huh.
she is the one who worked with me prior to me going to Kenya. And
Okay.
made sure when I got there, everything was set for each main function that I had, like the outfit that I had for Jamhuri. The outfit that, yes.
Designer.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Akenya Adondo.
Her stuff is off the chain.
So
It is. I mean, she
is she
dressed a couple
Googleable?
of. Oh yeah.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Akinya Adongo.
Akinyi Odongo.
Akenyi Odongo.
Kenya Odongo.
Akenyi
Yes.
Odongo.
Look
Okay.
her up. Google her.
Okay.
She's
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
She's amazing.
All right, Akenyi, you know, like hiyo hapo ni sawa. This one we've let it slide, but we can discuss business because diasporans really love stuff like this.
Oh yes.
Correct.
And I'm sure
Yes.
if there's a way, in which that connection can be made on how people can buy them, I'm sure people will be willing to do that. So Akenyi, you know, look us up and talk to us. And yes, we might just get you there. Don't worry about that. Don't worry.
You can still
There's
say
always
it.
a next time.
Okay.
There's always a next time. There's always a next
Actually,
time.
next time tutasema wakati tunafungua show.
Right away.
Okay. Aya, hapa sasa before you conclude hapa Wairimu, yani people sometimes wanakuja when
Surely.
Wairimu anasema I'm with Ali. I think this was when we were talking about the truth. The truth has no alternative 100%. And then Wairimu says the show is always very well balanced. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much Wairimu. And then Wairimu anasema nakubaliana na Bandio, kufunga ni between wewe na Mungu wako. Hii hapa ni makobe wote wale ambao hawakufunga. Makobe wale wote ambao hawakufunga ndo wanasema hivi hapa. But that's a story for another day.
Lakini si Mungu amesema kwamba usijionyeshe. So tunakubaliana na
That was
wewe.
about the prayer closet.
Okay, fine enough. And then hapa Wairimu pia anasema wonderful idea. I think Ivory Coast does have an honorary consulates. There's one in my area. This is something that I'd like to know more about. Because it's an interesting, because I think with Kenya we also have some in places like Lebanon and some Middle Eastern countries. We might have some of this. And then Resilient hapa anasema good morning, good night everyone. I am now heading to Amunyoro. Oh my goodness, Resilient.
Resilient. I think she needs to come back and have her own show.
No, we Resilient needs to have our own show, and I think we're gonna
Yes.
organize that.
Yeah.
Resilient Jipange, one of these
Yes.
Good Fridays. We're gonna have a full conversation about everything, and I know it will be a very interesting, a very exciting show, and Kenyans are gonna learn so much, especially those who are not
Yes.
looking on the other side. So once again, I want to thank you so much, Huldah, for making time to come out here. I know you have a very early morning tomorrow, but you chose to spend your late night here with us, so we really appreciate that. And thank you so much for those who called in, Washeke, Resilient, and for those who Eric, and also for those who tuned in, the ones who are commenting, Slay, Stephen JJ, na wengine wote, Brown Sugar, Kanyaru, Aminali, Achuna Pacho, Mwakisha, asanteni sana. Without you,
kuna Pablo, kuna
yes, na Pablo pia. Yeah, na Pablo na kuja na violence pia. We really appreciate. Sometimes we need that violence. No watu wasikue wana call out. Or rather just not show up at work. Yeah, and decide to work from home when the job is on site. And you just decide to work from home without any permission. But again, yote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile 1-800 mteule. Na operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu. Na kikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule wa Masai. because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Kwaherini.
Asante sana Ali. Hulda, thank you very much. Asante kwa kuwa na sisi. Wasikilizaji, without you, watazamaji wasikilizaji, without you, issue haina maana. Like Beres, I'll say, how sweet can the wine be if you're not sharing with someone? Well, it doesn't matter tumejiandaa kiasi gani. If we don't have you, this is nothing. Itakuwa ni porojo. So thank you very much. OneMic, thank you again for trusting me with your chair. Ni sawa tu, mengine tutazungumza wakati mwingine.
Pablo ashatoa verdict. Na ametoa speaker, ameangusha ile nyundo ya speaker gavel akasema everyone has said aye. Tayari ashahesabu votes.
Kwa sisi wote watu wa imani, Eid Mubarak. Kama unavyoona tuko tayari hapa na tunafunga dhambi sasa mpaka Ramadhani ijayo, so no problem kuhusiana na hilo. Lakini asante sana. Naitwa Mubelwa, Twino Mukama, Simon Kulinda Bandio, mwana ma Paulina Babo. Paulina kwenye Rasta naita Ras Twin. Ras si ama Rasta ni a real African soldier, na Twin sema pacha, japo nifuatao nimepacha. DJ Omosha natufungia hadi wakati mwingine, nasema Eid Mubarak, lakini jijali na wajali wenzako. Bye bye. Omosh, twende kazi.
Kitazama nilikotoka, hapa nilipo ninapokwenda, ninagundua ingekuwa ni nguvu zangu ningeshachoka, nisingeweza. Sio kweli kwamba tukuhaso na kupambana na vimenitoa, juhudi haizidi kudra, siwezi sema babu wa kujituma. Niitwa ndugu lawama, mfano wa waliokwama, mtu asiye na maana, wa kuchekwa, kudharauliwa, ila Mungu ana maguvu Bwana.